to make sure everything's running proper like. And may or may not be finishing up. Sorry. I don't know where that came from. I just squeaked so hard, I think I hurt my voice. Ow. That wasn't expected. I'm gonna finish up what I'm doing in Graham Glue real quick. I'm getting incredibly lucky with these last few draws of the 500 draw for today. I got Grimnir, Tsukiyomi. The golden mop. I got Graham! I got Graham! Yes! I got SSR Beatrix. Yes, all is good. Super Buku Frenzy! It's just fucking... I... I'm just doing this, and I have my stream going. I should probably actually I should actually load the stream. That might help if I actually load the game. I'm just so delighted. God, this is such sad music. It's such good music, but God, it's so sad. Okay. And... Jesus Christ. I'll take care of that in a minute. It's bonito. Alright, there we go. Now that that's taken care of, now we can go into more sad shit and, kill a dude. Maybe. Sunday. The fireworks I heard before noon were probably to announce the opening of the festival. And the weather certainly wasn't festival weather. It was cloudy. The television forecast was calling for possible downpours during this evening and lasting until around midnight. But as long as it wasn't raining at the moment, the festival would go on. The festival had to open, or it wouldn't begin. The Fude Shrine grounds were probably decorated beautifully for the big performance that only happened once a year. Many paper lanterns were hung up, all in the auspicious colors of red and white. The sound of electric motors at the stalls, the voice of kids running around, the happy families watching them, smiling. Today was the festival of Tatarigoroshi. Was everyone already partaking in the festivities? What about Sadako? Had she forgot her days of suffering just for a few moments while smiling that brilliant smile she hadn't in so long? This would probably be the longest day of my life. It would be a day I would remember vividly for as long as I lived. I told my parents I'd go to the festival this evening and lounged around during the early afternoon. We may have lived under the same roof, but I couldn't help being surprised by the deviation from how I usually spent my time. Glancing at my parents out of the corner of my eye, I went to the front door, tied my shoes just a little tighter than normal, as if to express the firmness of my resolve in those knots. When I decided to murder Sadako's uncle, I was in a state of excitement. I almost went crazy. When I was planning out the act of the murder, which went directly against all the morals fostered in me thus far, I was in such a state of calm I almost thought I had lost my emotions. And then yesterday, when I learned Satoshi had made the exact same phone call as me, I didn't know how to describe the muddled feelings I had then. Now entering today, right now I lacked all the emotions I possessed until now. To make a simple analogy, it's kind of like feeling you might get right after you wake up, when you're still half asleep, and you don't feel anything clearly. I had no anger towards that man for the violence he committed against Sadako, nor did I feel sadness towards or sympathize with her. I felt no discontent towards my friends, who just waited and watched, never reaching out to her with any help, and no nervousness or fear towards that day that had finally come. Yes, right now you could say I was in the best possible condition for carrying out a murder. When it came down to it, I'd probably need to let my violent emotions take control, but right up until that moment, I'd be like an insect. I would slowly, surely, and silently move towards my one objective, and then, when I had my prey, I'd attack like a bullet. There was no emotion in that, just the creeping mindset insects possess. That sort of sneaking feeling was just the best. I'd kill Sadako's uncle like he was a worm. I had to laugh a little at thinking that way, thinking like an insect. Tug. I tightened my laces one more time and walked out the door. I brought the shovel out of the front storeroom. I would need to dig the man's grave. The shovel was a convenient one made for camping. If I twisted it like so and split it into 3, I could easily hide it in my bag. Twisted the shovel and dismantled it. And even though I had done it countless times before, I had trouble for some reason. Like I was suddenly clumsy now. I knew why. It wasn't because I was nervous. My weak-willed self, deep within me, was hesitant. I knew that the act of dismantling the shovel would be the first step I'd take towards becoming a murderer. Ugh. The last twist was conspicuously difficult, but it finally submitted before the strength of my determination. The area around Sadako's house was outside my circle of activity, but even just riding my bike in the middle of the day like this might seem suspicious to an observant person. I definitely want to avoid meeting and talking to someone I knew. With that in mind, I chose the route to my destination carefully. I didn't mind going a long way around. With how long this day would be, I could never be too careful after all. Still, I was fortunate enough not to run across anybody on my way to the planned site of the crime. I wasn't superstitious at this point, but it was a good omen. The place I would dig the hole was in this grove, a little further into the woods. I was worried I might not make it to the same place as before, but since there was no signs to guide me, I arrived there smoothly as expected. I took another look around. Not even a hint of human presence. The air was a little bit damp, but it was comfortable in the cool shade of the trees. I took the disassembled shovel out of my bag and began skillfully putting it together. Then I stuck the tip of the shovel into the soft-looking patch of ground and pushed on it with my foot. The shovel would split the earth if I put some strength into my foot. The act of doing so seemed awfully like the point of no return, and it made me hesitate. I was just digging a hole with a shovel, but it made me gulp hard. Calm down, Keiichi Marabara. Let's do a countdown. Get it done on the count of 3, okay? Alright. 1, 2... I couldn't do it on the countdown, despite it just being stuck the shovel in the ground, and I had to count down 5 or 6 times. Damn it, I'm just digging a hole, this is pathetic! As I thought that, I put strength into my heel like I was stepping on something unpleasant, and split came the sharp noise. It was only soft at the beginning, Roots and stones quickly got in my way, informing me just how hard it was to dig a hole big enough for a person. No decent person would ever come here anyway. Maybe it would be enough to cover him up with some dirt. Every time a naive thought like that crept into my mind, I bit down on it with my teeth and dug even harder. I've dug enough now. I could hide him like this. Every time I thought that, I would go down into the hole, growing disappointed at how shallow it was, and return to digging. The thin layer of sweat on my brow eventually formed into droplets and fell to the ground. My back was even in worse shape. My damp shirt adhered to my skin, and it felt so disgusting. The things I couldn't stand the most were the mosquitoes. Maybe they were attracted by the scent of my sweat. The black and white striped mosquitoes would cling to me whenever I let my guard down. It was hot. It was disgusting. It was sticky. It was itchy. Those uncomfortable feelings surged through me in waves. Damn it all. So what, are you trying to tell me to pack up and go home? Is that it? I hadn't yelled at anyone. It was me talking to myself. Me telling myself something. Why was I feeling this way? Digging a hole all the way out here? What benefit would digging this hole give me? What harm would there be to not digging this hole at all? Wait, in the first place, who ordered me to dig? When I thought it over, maybe ever since grade school, or maybe before that, my whole life had only been me doing what other people told me to. I didn't mean it was something constrained. I didn't mean it was something somehow constrained, living a life based on the commands of others. And I didn't mean I was too lazy to try and find my own road in life. Metaphorically speaking, yes, it is like a road. I'd never been particularly physically fit. I didn't hit puberty very early, and if all my classmates and I got in line, I'd usually be on the shorter end. My scores in jump rope competitions and marathons were the very picture of average. It wasn't like the captains of the dodgeball teams would have the passionate rock-paper-scissors contest to see who would get me. During those kindergarten and grade school years, it felt like someone was the only worth of how fast they grew or how fit they were. Looking back on it now, it was fairly uncomfortable for me. The thing that turned all that around was just a few words from my mother. Keiichi, would you like to go to a cram school? You'll better grasp what you're learning in school, and it'll be more fun. The very first test I took at cram school was kind of like a game. It was a lot of fun. It wasn't like the tests were the same exact problem dozens of times in a row. Every question had a picture to it, almost like one of those puzzle books that came with manga magazines. If my studies at school had been like this, it would have been way more fun. Several days later, I went to cram school again with my mother and the enrollment paperwork. Mom and that person at the cram school had a really long, heated discussion, so I accidentally dozed off and missed the point of what they said. But I clearly remember one point. My mom made a loud groan, surprised at something. By 61, you mean his average score was 61 points? No, not at all, Miss Maiwara. The mean deviation of our cram schools all across the country is 61. He's showing rare numbers, even if this is just a simplified intelligence exam. First, I would like to say that Keiichi Marabara-kun is extremely bright. Keiichi? But he doesn't have very good grades at school. He has average marks on his report cards. B's, C's, D's. Is there some kind of mistake? We gave him the Capriel test as well, and we learned some very interesting things as a result. Marabara-kun is extremely weak when faced with questions that don't have any meaning. He just has no interest in simple, good old questions that don't have to do with everyday life. So even if he doesn't know what 2 plus 3 is, if you told him he had 2 apples and to get 3 more, he would understand that sort of question? That's right. For example, instead of telling him to draw a flattened, foldable cube, what if we asked him what a die looked like if it was cut open? If we did that, he would answer beautifully. And that person from the cram school showed her page from one of the exams I took. It was a paper of questions about construction. Construction questions were unusual, so they were really cool, weren't they? In this question, it was asked to draw an unfolded regular isodophogram, a shape with 20 faces. When we rephased it and asked him how he would cut a piece of cardboard to create a 20-sided die, Keiichi-kun drew the answer as though it were easy. This is not something an average child can do. Keiichi, have you ever made a die with 20 sides from a magazine extra or something? Die only went from 1 to 6. I never even considered before this test that there were dice with more than 6 sides. So it was fun to imagine what kind of shape a die that went up to 20 would have. If I had a die like that, I would win a dice game against anyone, so I immediately wanted to make it. Wait, would that mean, that either means Keiichi is ADHD or autistic in a way? Huh. Finally, I entered cram school. There were only 4 students in the class that would foot with me, which was called select. It was the highest class, and some of my classmates were in lower grade classes. And when I remembered how much better they had done at things like dodgeball and the 50-meter sprint, I felt happiness well up within me for the first time. Even if it wasn't as good at them physically, I triumphed over them in other ways. It was fun at first. The more I did, the more I was praised. My teachers at school suddenly started pampering me, and it felt good. My parents were satisfied, too, and I enjoyed seeing them satisfied. The more I listened to my parents' commands, the more fun things got. That did happen, didn't it? I grinned dryly in self-deprecation, because, well, my studious lifestyle didn't end up lasting very long. It was only at the beginning I enjoyed learning more and more. I gradually got along less with my friends. My classes were behind what I was learning in cram school, and I eventually stopped respecting the teachers, given that they put me to sleep with their lectures. And, well, I was the disagreeable sort who bragged a lot about how much I knew, and the ways of the world wouldn't let me remain in that state of ecstasy forever. I would do as I was told, and then I'd go above and beyond their expectations, and then they'd praise me. I was happy for that, and the cycle repeated itself like the wheels on a bicycle. I thought moving forward like that was how life worked, like a bicycle. When I moved to Hinamizawa, I realized just how inadequate it was. Some things happened, and we started saying how moving and getting in change in atmosphere would be nice. And then my father, he had a piece that he liked, and he had gone for a few times to draw the nature. He started saying that he wanted to bring his Altier there. With me in blank amazement, they decided to move to Hinamizawa. After that, I met them, didn't I? The first day after transferring here, I went to the classroom with the teacher. I thought it would seem pitiful for her to bring me there, so I put my hand on the door before she could, slammed it open, and set foot in the room. Clatter. The thrilling, powerful way I opened the door was none other than my own determination to try doing my life over again. And then within seconds, that determination took a hard counter to the face. A blackboard eraser fell on me. Plus, there was a huge rock inside. It was a supremely painful trap someone had set up. Oh, come on. Sadako was already beating me right from the first day I transferred. That frightened me. I was bewildered. The class was surprised, too. I wasn't just surprised that the students in the class were all different grades and were different genders. It's because the room completely felt different than the schools I knew. As I spent more time with them, my surprise continued to grow. This fresh sense of surprise had never left my life, even to this day. Every day was a fresh new surprise. I've never had a single boring day since coming here. The days were lively, spent with the other club members. We played Old Maid with cards, with scratches on the back to cheat. We let all our passions go wild during our games. We went out all out as regular participants in tournaments at the toy store in town, and many, many more things. Recently, during those times, there was the bento competition. It was then. That was when I saw an unexpected side to Sadako. Thinking back on it, I only ate dinner with her 2 nights. It was such sweet, gentle time spent, and it warmed my heart remembering it even now. I realized that Sadako was pretending to be stubborn and firm. How brave she was, part of her heart always waiting for her Nini to come home. And I vowed to become her Nini. Sadako may have been nagging and overcritical, but she knew how to take care of someone. And though it may have seemed like she was taking the lead, it was actually her way of depending upon another person. Even if Satoshi and Sadako's lives as siblings were confined by their uncle and his wife, they were still warm, sunny days. When did those sunny days all go wrong? What mistake was made? Lamenting tragedies of the past would do no good, and I told myself that so many times, but I did it anyway. Keiichi, isn't that why you chose your own path? To take back that life. No one ordered you to do this. You decided on your own. You don't desire anyone's praise for this. You thought it all through yourself. You'll carve it out yourself, and you'll do it now. This wasn't a path I could see very far down. Not like the road parents or society could offer. It was a narrow, dark, and utterly distressing one of which the next step would always be shrouded in darkness. But that disheartening path would keep on going forever. It was an unlimited path, and there was nowhere I couldn't travel. That kind of path only available to those to imagine where they wanted to go. Don't be ashamed at breaking from the brightly lit paved road. In fact, feel proud that you found your own very path to walk. And I hadn't discarded the paved road either. Once I achieved my goal, I would go back to the bright road, and I'd spend those average sunny days at my leisure. Crush. When I realized it, the hole had grown so deep I couldn't believe it. Did I dig all this myself? I think digging this much is enough, right? Put my shovel at the bottom of the hole. I would drag the body here, throw it in the hole, and cover it with dirt. Even if it took me time to camouflage it by putting plants on top, it would all go more easily than digging this hole had. I glanced at my watch. It was almost evening, and I hadn't realized it. I may not have felt the time passing, but digging a hole this deep must have taken quite a long time. I took a seat on the slanted rock nearby and wiped the sweat from my brow. Now, once it got a little darker, I'd go get the metal bat I hid in the schoolyard. Then I'd make the call to lure him out, and then I'd do it. The number of things I needed to do to reach the moment were dwindling. I felt that moment closing in on me much more keenly than I did the passage of time. I didn't have any hesitation, but I still felt that. A contradiction. At every step in this process, I had a few chances to hesitate, to turn back, to let myself lose my nerve. Having to endure those million temptations and wait for when the time was right was an indescribable, slow, and painful torture. I had thought myself acting all weak because of that, but I stopped midway through. This was okay. It was fine. I could detest the abnormal act of homicide as much as I wanted, and it didn't matter. I wasn't going to be a cutthroat killer after today. I'd pass through this strange day and go back to the world I was in before. If I fell to the level of psychopath who thought nothing of killing, I wouldn't be able to go back to my old life. So this was fine with me. I didn't have to feel ashamed at hesitating to kill, because I was human. It was so funny to me that I'd be the bearer of Oroshiro-sama's curse at the same time I was aware I was human. I exhaled lightly and stood. I concealed my presence, sharpened my senses in all directions to search for anyone around but me. Okay, let's go. One step at a time. I'd walk my own path, a path no one had forced me to walk. Let's do this, Keiichi Marabara. The cicadas made an annoying fuss. Their chorus covered up the suspicious noise of me breaking twigs underfoot, and their chorus filled the path far ahead of me, letting me know I'd be alone for some time. Cicadas blessed the path I walked, encouraging me with every last ounce of strength they had. The sky was far above. In not even an hour the veil of night would draw near, and the sky would be tinted with dusk. By that time the Higurashi would hear their cry chorus in place of the cicadas. When that happened, would everything be over with? Would everything have ended? I said something along those lines when I left Sadako's face up to the public agency, but this time was different. I would do it. I would carry it out. I would end it. It would all be over very soon. Everything would end. Yes, when the Higurashi cried. Name dropped! Oh, everything's getting steadily darker. It's becoming evening. Name drop! Higurashi no nakakoro ni. There was nobody at school. I couldn't hear the playful voices of children. This is the first time I'd seen the school with such a lack of human presence. Still, I quieted my breath and looked around, not wanting to be unprepared. It had gotten dark outside, but it was almost like my eyes could see more clearly now. I had made absolutely sure of my safety. Then walked to the heavy construction machine I had hidden the metal bat behind. I had a tinge of worry, a premonition, that someone had found the bat and hidden it somewhere else as a prank. If that happened, would I take that as an opportunity to desist? If it really wasn't there, then. The sensation of chilled metal. It was still here where I left it. It hadn't run away. Satoshi hadn't run away. He'd waited here patiently for me. Sorry for the wait, Satoshi. It's been a long time coming. You prepared for this? Through the metallic touch, Satoshi grins at me in my mind. That's what I should be asking, you know. I did this last year already. You should be more worried about yourself. Right on, Satoshi. Let's show him a bad time. Satoshi's back got lighter and lighter, and it fit into my hands like it was being absorbed. It didn't feel wrong to swing this. I could move it around so naturally it was like an extension of my own right arm. Of course it felt like that. Satoshi and I were holding one bat together. Next the call to lure the man out. It wasn't a bad time for it. My friends were doubtlessly parading happily through the stalls. I hadn't considered where to make the call from. My house and Sadako's were far apart. If I called from my house, I wouldn't make it. Couldn't I use the school phone? But as I thought, the room was locked up and I couldn't get in. Shit. I was so naive. I should have at least figured this part out. I couldn't call him. And just from that, was today all over? I'm sorry, Satoshi. Just as I cursed my own naivete, a miracle occurred. A bicycle came into the schoolyard. was a familiar middle-aged man, the one from the Forest Service field office. Why, wasn't today Sunday? Or was he here to pick up something he forgot? Anyway, the forest officer went around back and felt around in his pocket and unlocked the door and entered. The best possible coincidence. And it had to be Satoshi who saved me. The metal bat, though just my contact with it, told me this is the chance I couldn't allow to slip by. The sections of the forest office and the school were neatly separated. I felt the man head in the forest office's storehouse, which was so far in the back students weren't allowed into it. The door didn't match its fittings well, so it didn't close all the way, and the gap of the door opened slowly as if to lure me in. I took a deep breath and went in. I tiptoed along silently and stealthily, and made it into the teacher's lounge. It was the only place with a phone. As I held my breath in the teacher's lounge, I heard the Forest Service officer walking back over. Then the back door clattered shut and was locked. I glanced out the window at the schoolyard and watched as the man got on his bike like nothing had happened and rode out the school gate. The school once again emptied, becoming deathly silent. I waited for a bit to make sure the silence was the real deal, then reached for the phone on the principal's desk. I fished Sadako's house phone number out of my pocket. Yes, the number of the class directory for Sadako had been the one for their house now, where she lived with her uncle. I touched the dial with my fingers and then thought for a moment about what to say, exactly when he picked up. Despite how many times I'd gone over it in my head last night, now that I had my fingers on the dial like this, it started to seep out of my mind like a cracked bucket leaking water. Simple would be best. More importantly, to say it straight and not sound suspicious. I counted off 3 heartbeats and spun the dial. A call sound. Would Sadako's uncle pick up? Now, of all times, the hope he wouldn't pick up, and the feelings of doom and the knowledge that I couldn't save Sadako if he didn't, whirled around in a vortex. "Hello?" was the voice of a grumpy man, like he had just woken up. He picked up. "Hello?" "Say your name, so I know you're Hojo, you asshole. It'd be terrible if I got it wrong. I made up my mind. I had all the initiative on my side. Here we go. This is the Shishibon Okiyamiya police station. Am I speaking to the Hojo residents?" I was changing my voice, but did he really think I sound like an adult? Would he believe I was the police? "Oh, yeah, this is Hojo. We currently have your daughter, Sadako Hojo, here with us." "What? Sadako? What did that brat do?" He fell for it. I could tell by how tense he was that he didn't doubt my words. "I can explain the particulars once you've arrived here. Would you mind coming to the station right away?" "Right now? I already took a bath myself, so I don't really want to go out like this, though." "What? You don't want to come because you already took a bath?" "Yes, right away." "Right away? Jeez, man, what the heck did Sadako do? I'll explain once you're here. I will be waiting. Thank you for your assistance." Ah! One sec! I don't know where the police station is. Where am I going?" You moron, what the hell? The Okamiya police station? I don't know where it is either. Aren't you from around here? Why don't you know that?" A greasy sweat came over my body. Eventually, just as I was about to choke, he spoke. "Oh, next to the fire station, right? That's pretty far." Thank goodness he remembered on his own for me. I didn't care what the police station was, so long as he left his house to get there. "Then we'll be waiting here." "Oh! Wait, who am I asking for once I get there? What's your name?" On top of that, he wanted to know my name. "Just leave your goddamn house already." Maebashi. Excuse me. That was close. I almost thoughtlessly told him my real name. I managed to change the last syllable of it, but I put the receiver down like I was running away. My fingers were trembling, and I was soaked with tepid sweat. I wasn't just nervous about the phone call. With that call, everything had finally been put into motion. I left the school. It was locked before, but it was easy enough to open from the inside. But I couldn't lock it again after I left. In terms of being thorough, I wanted to lock it, but I couldn't waste time going back to the teacher's lounge and looking for the key. I needed to rush back fast, as I could, and ambush him. I zoomed past the scene on my bike. If Sadako's uncle got out of town before I got there, everything would be over. He'd learn there was no one at the station named Maebashi, and things would get pretty messed up. So I returned at full speed. I passed a family wearing yukatas. They must have been on their way to the festival. Many people in Hinamizawa knew my face, though I didn't know theirs. Even just passing by them like this made me uneasy. But I didn't generally come around here, so those living in the area might not know much about me. That didn't matter much right now. I needed to get back as fast as possible to control my breathing and to ambush that man. I hid my bike in the thicket and picked up Satoshi's bat where I had left it in the shade. Then I held my breath, waiting to see someone. I wondered if he still hadn't gotten here. Or maybe he was right out after the phone call and passed me by here already. I couldn't figure out which it was and was set upon an indescribable impatience. Calm down, Keiichi Maribara. Even if he came here already, he'd pass by here the way back, right? The end results would be the same. It wouldn't change the fact that he'd die. He'd probably be coming on his motorcycle. But would I stop him? How would I stop him then? I figured it'd be best not to think too hard and just hit him as he passed, or beat him off his seat. The path was made of pebbles. If I hit him as hard as I could and made him lose his balance, he wouldn't be able to help falling. And then, the course of the Higurashi stopped. The sound of a bike approached from far away. I couldn't tell what sort of motorcycle it was from its sound, but I had seen it parked before, so I'd know. It was getting rapidly closer. It was almost here. He just went a little farther, crossed that thicket, and appeared in front of me. It took a moment to make sure it was him. Then when I had, I put my plan into action. The motorcycle appeared. A few easily identifiable characteristics told me it was Sadako uncle's bike, without doubt. Was it really him? Was it really Sadako's uncle? I wasn't making a mistake, was I? I looked at its characteristics again. Its color, shape, and most of all, the man's clothes. And the face. Those last feelings of hesitation. I did away with them. Sadako, now. Your Nini will end it, okay? Closer, closer. The bike came closer. Let's go, Satoshi. Yeah. I jumped out of the thicket. I used my shoulder to basically tackle the uncle on the bike with all my might. Whoa! He gave a dumb shout as his bike completely lost its balance. Finally it fell. The bike scattering clouds of sand, and after spinning, it stopped. Her uncle tossed to the ground, didn't understand what had just happened, groaned for a few moments, crouched on the ground. My breathing started to become ragged. No, I couldn't have this emotion. Some weird secretion crossed through my brain and nearly made me hallucinate. Her uncle was groaning. Now was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. What was I doing? All the sounds in the world cut off. My mental chaos from a moment ago withdrew like a lie. I could feel the temperature in my head rapidly cooling down. The tension in my muscles all went away, like the strings that had been attached that had been cut. I let my hands dangle at my sides. It wasn't quite like exhaustion. Have you calmed down now, Keiichi Maribara? Do you need to remember again why things got to this point today? Scrape, scrape. I stepped over the pebbled path, taking one step, and another towards Sadako's uncle. The more I walked, the more my breathing calmed. The more I walked, the more I felt my body cooling, calming, chilling with frost. Yes, at this moment this guy had lost permission to live. I had just reconciled it. So he mustn't stay in this world any longer. If he lived any longer, if Sadako's misfortune continued, it would be my responsibility for allowing him to live. I could feel the cooling substance going through my whole body, even down to my capillaries. Her uncle was at my feet now, still on the ground like an idiot. I smiled coldly at how ridiculous he looked. Ugh, that hurt. That's all it took, for it to hurt. Sadako's heart hurt much more, and now you're gonna feel that. And with your life, I'll make up for her pain! I erased all unnecessary information from my mind. I prioritized the murder of this man. Execute, execute, execute! Utterly calmly, I delivered my first strike to the back of his head. I wanted to get to the most effective spot, at least during the first moment I had to attack him, while he was at his most defenseless. Ugh! And as he was hit in the head, he covered his head. It was a defensive reaction all humans made, like machines. He used both hands to cover his head so he couldn't pick himself off the heap that he was in on the ground. Like pounding a caterpillar into the dirt, I hit him over and over. If he covered his head, I'd hit him in the side. If he covered his body, I'd go for his head. If he rolled over, I'd strike his feet, his knees, his elbows. I didn't care where anymore. By just delivering one blow after another, I induced panic in him. I retained my overwhelming advantage, but I hadn't done him nearly enough to deliver a fatal blow. Her uncle skillfully pulled himself off the ground and began to run like a fleeing rabbit. It wasn't a judgment he had made after seeing my face and decided whether to fight me. Right now, he was fleeing by instinct, just trying to escape from the threat that had presented itself. Counterattacked with the most physical capable uncle was what I was most concerned about. He may have run, but it wasn't all that unlucky. And the odds were in my favor. The uncle didn't run away towards people, but off the path and into the woods. How pleasant that he'd run in the direction where no one else was. He was fleeing into strange geography, like a rat that instinctively runs into tight spots over and over. Yes, he was no longer human. He was a rat. The blood vessels in my legs expanded. My total oxygen supply increased. I lowered myself to gain the most explosive velocity I could. Without breathing, I became a wind-like shadow and dashed. I crossed thickets, crushed dead tree branches underfoot, and drove through the woods like a bullet. He ran so cowardly, arms flailing as he went. After catching up with him, I didn't need to so much as blink of an eye to strike him again. My senses, mind and body were all sharpened purely to kill this man. This is the first time I'd felt like this. Well, this was the first experience I had ever had killing someone. It felt natural continuing to do this for the first time, and that meant I had this much talent for killing. Or perhaps the act of killing was so simple that anyone could do it. I didn't struggle or grow tired at all the chasing the clumsy, fleeing uncle. No matter how much he ran, it was like trying to get away from his own shadow. He couldn't get away from me. I could easily aim at his back, his shoulder, his head, even from this unnatural stance. Every time I struck him, he wailed in pain and begged pitifully for forgiveness, but it didn't disturb my mind. I was neither excited nor plagued by hesitation like before. I felt sharp. I felt like a carnivore. Of course, so did the uncle, who was trying to run away because he didn't want to die. He didn't want to be eaten like a herbivore running with all its might trying to get away. Despite all the attacks, despite all the hits, he kept on fleeing without even staggering. And despite the bad footing in the forest, he impressively never tripped over anything. But there was no need to admire that fact. It was simply proof that he was no more than an animal. If he was chased, he would run. If he was going to be killed, he would run. He bared his fangs at the weak, but couldn't oppose the strong whatsoever. He was lowly, vulgar, a diminutive animal. Such a puny little creature had harmed Sadako, scar after scar to her body and mind, deep wounds that would never, ever go away, as long as she lived. My cold and calm emotions suddenly turned into bestial ones. My personality changed into something specialized for murder, purely to devour the diminutive animal before me. The uncle gave a puny little shriek, covered his head, and ran. I'm impressed at how much you can run. Fine, run as much as you like. I'll be your death. I'll choose the moment at my leisure. Your legs will hurt. Your lungs will feel about to burst. Your head will hurt from lack of oxygen. If you feel the pain has become worse than death, then by all means stop any time. Without turning back, suffocating on his terror of the approaching death, he just ran shamefully onwards. He ran, but was chased, his head bashed with a metal bat, sweat and drool flying everywhere, blood clinging to him. From his mouth came the sound of coarse, irregular breathing and high-pitched screaming that verged on crying, and pleas for forgiveness to someone, I didn't know who. And each and every second was a second of atonement that I had granted him. Now, run, and fall and moan and die. Where'd you even crawl out of anyway? You were never here before. If you were never here, you never would have shown up. If you never showed up, our lives would be still fun and enjoyable. We would have been gone to today's festival, waited for each other, and gone to the shrine, laughing. We would have been playing amongst the stalls right about now. We'd be browsing the strange food stalls you only saw at festivals, trying to get prizes from goldfishing, scooping, ring throwing, or target practice. Mion would truly make it a competition, and we as a club would have a grand time. And everyone would be cheering for Rika-chan's dedication dance. And everyone would be saying how fun it was, and give us energy for days to come. Fun, enjoyable, and funny. Warm times spent with friends. And that would have happened. But it didn't, and now it was all smashed to pieces! There was no doubt that it would be what the world was like if you'd never showed up. You were the obstacle, the mistake, the heresy in that world. But I would correct the mistake now. I would erase you and make it so this last week never happened. Tonight was the Watanagashi festival. The holy night where taking just one life was permitted in the name of Orishiro-sama's curse. Looked like the Higurashi stopped crying at some point. When the Higurashi cried, everything would end. And the Higurashi silenced. Lowly one, the hour of atonement is at hand. The Higurashi have stopped their crying. Thus it is the end. The end, the end, the end, the end! You don't have to run away anymore. Die with those dirty brains of yours smashed everywhere! Lightning and thunder struck like an explosion. It was so loud it shook the ground, and I smelled gunpowder. The response I got this time was clearly different from the one before. The bell bat crunched into the crown of his head. It's like the top of his head had caved in, felt like it was biting him. It had been the final killing attack that visited him. When I didn't overlook the opening, he had left as his knees gave out under him. I remained alert for a few moments, then thud, thud, planted both knees on the ground, and then fell forwards, burying my head in the ground. I'd been holding back my rapid breathing, but now that it all came at me like a dam bursting. My head was dizzy and light, and unable to maintain my balance, I leaned against a nearby tree. My uncle didn't try and guard his head any longer. After a disgusting sort of spasm, he stopped moving. Did I get him? Did I get him for sure? Fought back my exhausted urge to fall over where I stood, and drew towards him carefully, but still at the ready. It's possible he was faking it and trying to wait it out. Should I check for a pulse? I realized right away, though, how necessary that would be. If I thought he might be faking it, then I would just have to keep pummeling him until I was satisfied. Fought back my ragged breathing again, and then I swung my bat far above, and brought it down. Clunk. His body leaped like a bow, but he didn't try and cover his head. Then once again I aimed for his head, and swung. His reaction was the same this time. After spending a few moments making his head into mochi, that hits gradually started to feel different. Started to spray a filthy dark red liquid everywhere. That was enough. It was definite now. I had absolutely killed him. There was no sense of accomplishment, nor one of regret. I didn't feel anger towards Sadako's uncle, nor pity towards Sadako herself. Instead, right now, I was feeling like my heart had been stolen by the downpour, and begun to rain at some point, and how comfortable it felt. The rainwater drenched my body and dripped down to the ground. The excitement within me faded as the rain washed away the grime. In exchange, my shoes were so wet they made a splashing sound. And despite abusing Sadoshi's back like that, it wasn't bent very much. There were a few dents in it, probably from hitting the man, but nothing that would make it seem different from them before. Instead, it had been stained with black, with red, with mud and blood. But that itself would be evidence. But one piece of evidence needed to prove that my delusions hadn't been daydreams, and that I ended Sadako's life for eternity. Sadako's uncle's life for all eternity. All right, Keiichi, calm your mind. The time for passion is over. Now is the time to be as cold as ice. I needed to bury the body. But where was I? Simply followed the man as far as he ran into the darkness. I couldn't take a guess on how far we'd run. It was already pitch black around us, and the only light I had to go on was the very faint lights on the road a little further down. It was so dark out. I hadn't noticed the darkness until just now. My vision was so good I couldn't see the man's ugly hairline. Ugly man's hairline. I could have counted the pores on his head. It's only now that I realized how much crazy strength I had mustered at the moment. I went over to the streetlight. I looked up and over the road, desperately trying to figure out where I was. Oh no. This is the one road connecting Hinazawa to the town. We were unbelievably far away from Sadako's house. Had the two of us really run so far a distance? My surprise at that was accompanied by the knowledge that the miraculous fact that despite running so far and making so much noise, we hadn't come across anybody at all. There was a long way between here and the ambush location where I dug the hole. There's no way I could carry the body that far. Wait, aside from that, the bike the man took here was still lying in the middle of that path. That would be an issue. Police could tell whose motorcycle it was by looking at its license plate. And I wouldn't just leave it at that. Thankfully, the corpse was in a dark forest. In terms of urgency, dealing with the bike would come first. And I wanted to get the shovel back from where I left it, next to the hole. I couldn't drag the body there. I'll have to deal with it right here. Fortunately, the ground was like mud from the downpour, and the more sludgy here than where I was before. Might be able to dig a grave quickly here. Of course, my bicycle was still over where I'd left it, too. It still wasn't over. Homicide was only half of my goal. The other half would be just as important as the first. I would completely hide the body, not allowing a beginning to happen. I'd erase the man like he had never existed, and regain the peaceful times we had before. I bent my head backwards and calmed my mind even further. The big water droplets stuck to my brow mercilessly. They were actually quite comfortable. For a while I let my desire have its way. After confirming I was sharp again, I started running through the rain. The motorcycle was in the grass at the roadside. Considering how it looked, pelted with rain and covered in mud, it would actually seem like it had been lying there for a very long time. The plan was to drop the motorcycle into the swamp. The swamp was a bit of a walk from here. I lifted the bike up. I didn't think it would be so heavy. I was a little surprised. But once I had it upright, it was fairly easy to roll it along. I feel it's important to mention, in the manga and in the anime, it wasn't a motorcycle, it was a moped. Still, pushing this thing all the way to the swamp was really not something I wanted to do. I could no longer ignore my exhaustion, and it warned me numerous times how far away the swamp was. This motorcycle. I wonder if I could ride it well enough. Once I got it going, it'd be basically the same as a motorcycle. Wouldn't it give me the swamp quickly? The plan suggested by my exhaustion. The anxiety at getting on a motorcycle for the first time withdrew. Turn the key, and you just kick this pedal, right? Yeah. Yeah! It's on! And then I gripped the handlebars. First the right, then the left. Ah! Maybe I twisted them too much. The bike lurched and did a wheelie like an angry horse. I lost it for a second, but it was just a problem of how much torque to apply. Let's try that again. This time slowly, gently. This time it went well. It was strange to be on a two-wheeled vehicle that wouldn't even go if I didn't pedal. Very odd, but I got used to it quickly. Mion once told me that you get a scooter license within a day, and she was clearly right. This was pretty easy. I needed to throw the metal bat into the swamp, too. But I didn't know how I'd pack the bat into the motorcycle. Without much other choice, I stuffed it in the back of my shirt. It felt like a ninja carrying a katana. If I put the tip down in the seat of my pants and hunched over, it wouldn't fall out. I got back on the bike, and this time, going without any difficulty. Carefully pressed the button labeled light, and a rather strong light came on, illuminating the way forward. Probably really shouldn't have turned it on, but I didn't really have any way of seeing at this point, and zero confidence I would ride through this darkness. As the road came down, I maintained a precarious balance and inched my way towards the swamp. Along the way, I ran across a few people who seemed to be returning from the festival, but none of them had any interest in me. They were either all soaked through the rain and hurrying on their way home, or had their umbrellas low and their heads down. Yesterday I might have been wary of even these passerbys, but right now it didn't seem very much of a cause of concern. In fact, it would probably be less suspicious to be riding out in the open like this instead of sneaking around. More and more, though, I started to think that idea is naive, brought on by an exhausted state. I climbed a steep hill. On a bike, this hill would have put me out of breath, but I had accelerated a little bit to climb the entire thing. Motorcycles sure are convenient. For a moment, the lights illuminated the sign before I passed by it. Nikafucha Swamp. Good children do not play around here. Still, it wasn't like the way to the swamp was cornered off by a metal festa or anything. Parents and teachers would get mad at you if they found you were playing at the swamp, but some of the bad kids in class apparently snuck out here sometimes to see the giant crayfish in the place. They talked about it before, about how they'd go to the candy shop and buy some pickled squid. They'd just tie it to the fishing line and throw it, and all the crayfish would come running. Once I got up to the bank, there was a tiny ritual shrine and traditional ropes out on one of the trees. And as it swallowed the downpour whole, the blackened swamp had waited for me. If I slammed the acceleration from the cliff-like stop I was on now, the thing would fly straight into the middle of the swamp. I had to be careful not to fall in with it. If I drowned and disappeared, man, what a stupid ghost story that would be. On the night of Tatarigoroshi, Sadako's uncle's corpse was found in a thicket by the road leading to the town, and Mayabara Keiichi went missing. People would whisper that I had been demoned away. The 5th year's curse would be a half-baked one. I got off the bike, twisted the accelerator as hard as I could. I let go of it just when it seemed like it would drag me forward. The bike shot off the cliff and was swallowed into the swamp, leaving a far fainter splash than I imagined. Its surface was being pummeled by the downpour, and the muddy, filthy waters flowing into it. I couldn't even make out the motorbike I'd just thrown in there. It's pretty heavy, after all. It would be quickly engulfed by the soft mud at the bottom of the swamp, and it'd be pulled deeper and deeper until it reached hell itself. I felt no reluctance whatsoever in throwing the man's motorbike down in the land of demons, but I did have a tinge of regret for what I did it with Satoshi's bat. The muddy water washed off all the gore sticking to it and sunk easily. I had sort of shared today's events with Satoshi, so I wanted to give it a quiet place to stay. That's how I felt. Started to feel more like returning to the locker from before, so I could continue to watch over Sadako. Satoshi, I probably misunderstood you. Satoshi listened quietly without nodding. He was absolutely convinced now. We were the ones. You were the one who beat your aunt to death last year and saved Sadako. I always scorned you and called you a coward who ran away, but I was wrong. To the rest of the world, some deviant was behind that incident, but I know that was something you did for her. And then you disappeared. You finally got back that peace and lost it within days. So I swear to you that I will live life to the fullest from now on. Live it enough for the both of us. I'll live on as though this week, this day, never happened. But I will never forget the short time we shared together for as long as I live. I don't know what expression Satoshi made as he listened, but as someone who had protected the same girl, I felt he had smiled and given me his blessing. And then, my hand moved of its own accord, and the bat I had hesitated to throw away left my hands and flew through the air. It traveled its parabolic path, spinning all the while, and the swamp absorbed it without a sound. You were supposed to firmly grasp it, Keiichi! There weren't even any ripples when it hit the surface. The surface was tremendous because of the downpour, and the bat was long gone. For a moment I regretted having thrown it, but I realized that might have been what Satoshi had wanted. You're right. I still can't let myself give in to motion just yet. I return for my shovel, get on my bike, take a hole to hide the body, and bury it. It seemed like a simple sequence of events, but I felt extremely exhausted, and I had to do it all tonight. Satoshi left me with the only advice I needed to finish it up soon, and then fell silent for eternity, and disappeared at the bottom of the demon's abyss. Stretching! I returned to the path where I had ambushed her uncle on. My bike was hidden, sleeping in the brush. I stood it back up. My whole body felt heavy, but I needed to finish by the end of the day, even if I had to whip myself to do it. Oh, I forgot something. I didn't just come here for my bike. The shovel was here too. Oh, God. I was zoning out. Every once in a while, if I let my guard down, my vision would go almost black. Pull yourself together, Keiichi Marabara. Still not over. I went into the grove of trees and looked for the hole in which I had hidden the shovel. Fortunately, I had it hidden deep in the forest, not wanting it to be seen, and now everything was black in the night. I couldn't see anything anymore. I reawakened my fading consciousness and realized how big this annoyance really was. Wait, you can't be serious. The sweat the rain had washed away came back up on my skin, deep, deep in the forest where the streetlights could never reach. The fact that it would be so pitch black had been completely uncalculated. In this much darkness, even if I had been able to kill him right away like I had planned, I didn't know if I would be able to find the place where I was supposed to bury him. What should I do? I simply couldn't find the shovel tonight. If I forced myself to go deep into the forest, I'd lose even my sense of direction. It might actually get lost in there. That might have been an exaggeration, but it's fully possible I'd trip over a tree root and sprain a muscle. Oh, right, my house storage room. There was another shovel there, the same fold-up kind. I might go back to the house, get the shovel, and give up on finding the shovel tonight. It wasn't as though the name Mayabara was written on the shovel. It seemed like an unusual item for an import variety store, made in another country, so I didn't want to leave that shovel here. But in this darkness, I couldn't do anything. I should give up and go back to the storage room. And there was an electric lantern in there. If I used that for light, I could look for it. But this is so extremely dark. Could I light the way just with the lantern? The light of the lantern in this dark night. I couldn't discard the possibility of it drawing eyes. And I doubted if I could find the shovel with the lantern's feeble light. Besides, I left the body there for a pretty long time already. A sense of fear, dulled through the excess exhaustion, finally reared its ugly head. Anyway, for now the most important thing is to hide the body. The shovel being found wasn't a big deal, but a corpse? They find that, I'd share the same fate as Satoshi. First, I'd go back to the storage room at home. Then I'd get the lantern. Now that it's gotten this dark, I might need the light to dig a hole for the body, too. Then I'd get the other shovel, and then I'd deal with the body first thing. Once that was done, I'd come back here, find the shovel, and bring it back. I had to do at least that much, but it was so tired. The complaining was getting me nowhere. If I started getting complacent now, everything will be for naught. At some point, I had sat down. I gritted my teeth and endured, lifting my heavy hips. The night was young. And of all the nights I experienced, none had ever been this long. When would it all end? The night was young. Keiichi, I think you've lost all sense of cool in your system. Now you're just panicking, because you're tired. The lights at home were dazzlingly bright. Suddenly, they reminded me of how hungry I was. Checked the clock and saw it was almost 7. Thought for sure that it was 2 or 3 in the morning already. I was surprised at how messed up my biological clock had gotten from just this one night. There was a warm light coming from the curtains in the living room window. The worlds between here and what was beyond those curtains were so different. If only that man hadn't shown up, I would have been in that light. I'd still be excited for the festival, and I'd be talking to my parents about how much fun I had with all my friends. And then, even though they made a hot meal for me, I would have eaten way too much of the stalls, barely eaten any of it, and gone back to my room. No doubt I'd crawl in my futon and easily let myself fall asleep. But right now, I was completely different. There wasn't a single ember of warmth from those weak street lights. Right now, I was unconnected to any sort of spent with time with my family. There was neither warm food nor the time to allow myself to sleep. My body exposed to cold rain, I knew, but I simply had to spur myself and to accomplish what I must. I realized how timid, how cowardly I was becoming. For what reason did I kill someone, even if it felt this terrible? I'd lost sight of my purpose. I selected the fastest, most fundamental way of saving Sadako, and executed it without hesitation. That man was dead. He was gone. He would never, ever hurt Sadako again. We all thought frantically for days to end up about Sadako's bonnet bomb. Finally, with no other options, we gave up.
and I solved it in one night, by myself, without anyone's help. Right about now, Sadako would be making dinner for her uncle, despite not knowing when he'd return. She might be spending the night trembling in fear whether he'd yell at her for how it tasted. But her uncle wouldn't come home. She wouldn't have to fear his wrath, nor let him make her feel sad. I see. I did it. I successfully saved Sadako. All I'd been thinking about for a long time was killing that man. I'd forgotten the feeling that it was actually all to save her. I did. I did something good. That's right. I did something good, didn't I? I felt hot tears coming from my eyes. That's when I first realized the exhaustion I'd been feeling was actually guilt. The blade of guilt for a while now had been scraping away at its tip, hurting my heart. It hurt so bad I couldn't stand it. It was throbbingly painful. It hurt so much, it was so painful that I cried. I cried tears of joy at saving Sadako. I didn't know why, really, anymore. I just cried. My tears fell and fell. As I stood there for a while, coming to terms with those warm tears, my heart was comforted a little. All right, Keiichi Maebara. That's enough. There's nothing to regret or feel ashamed about. Both my body and mind were thoroughly exhausted, and that was a fact. It was only natural I couldn't feel anything. Even tomorrow, the day after that, I might not be able to feel anything for a while. But there was one thing that was true. There was an undisputable fact that I saved Sadako. One day, we would surely be rewarded. One day, I would be proud of how distressing an enterprise I had taken to get Sadako's smile back. And so I could wait for that day. I had to put the finishing touches on this night. If I left it undone, everything I had accomplished today would be for naught. Looked back up at the sky, which didn't look like it would stop raining any time soon. Then I rubbed my eyes and summoned forth energy from my core again. How long did I plan on spacing out? This isn't the time for daydreaming. Someone could find that corpse at this very moment. That pessimistic thought was proof that the very emotion of fear had returned to me. As I allowed the fear to spur me onwards, I went to look for the other shovel and the lantern inside the storage room. It was fortunate that I remembered what it looked like around the street light the body was near. With how dark it was quite possible I wouldn't have been able to look for it either. I didn't realize that when I left the place, so the idea of memorizing the spot hadn't even crossed my mind. That's why I called it fortunate that I managed to get back to the body like this. The corpse was now located in a big, muddy puddle. Half the thing was already sunken in a swamp-like pool of water. I only realized it afterwards, but there was an unused irrigation channel right nearby, clogged with fallen leaves and dirt. There was rainwater falling into it from there. My shoes had been awash with water for a long time now, so without hesitation I stepped into the puddle. The whole muddy stream started flowing back, luckily. It couldn't leave any slightest traces, like bloodstains. The rain was like a blessing from heaven. I checked around me, paying very close attention, and turned off the lantern. It became pitch black, but my eyes got used to the darkness in a few moments. Once I managed to reach the street light on the other side, I was able to make out even faint lights. I struck the shovel into the puddle right next to the corpse. The ground was even looser here than I thought. The shovel's tip easily slid inside. I had to hurry and dig. If I took too much time, I might lose my energy and strength again. It felt almost like digging a hole in the sand at the beach. It was easy to dig, but no matter what, the muddy water kept flowing in, covering the hole. The digging wasn't going as well as I hoped. I dug and dug, and the water would go in, so I couldn't even get a sense of how deep it was. The only way for me to measure it was to bury my own foot in the mud. I was digging just fine. It's all right to be disheartened. Dig, dig, dig. Occasionally a car would come on by the road, and I'd hurry to hide myself from the trees. Everyone was only passing through. They wouldn't have their eyes peeled in this kind of darkness. I understood it logically, but I couldn't help but hide. What I was really scared of wasn't quite that one of those cars would coincidentally happen to witness me here. It was that the distance I could spot cars was getting gradually shorter. First I noticed the splashing sound from really far away as cars drove through them. I started noticing less and less. But the cars that just passed by, I didn't notice it until the headlights were upon me. I felt my senses growing duller by the second. If someone were to take a peek in secret, as I was burying the body at the worst possible time, maybe I wouldn't even notice. The moment I thought that, I took a good look all around me. I roused all my half-asleep senses and searched for signs of presence nearby. What if I found out someone was spying on me from the trees? A carnivorous feeling snarled at me, glaring. If there was, then I would dig another hole. I'd come this far already. In order to achieve perfection, I didn't care how much more I had to pay. I didn't know what kind of face I was making at the time, but it was definitely a fervently glaring one. My five senses reached the conclusion that nobody was present. I didn't breathe a sigh of relief. How long had I been digging this mud out of here? It was deep enough for it to go up to my knees. Maybe this was enough. Maybe I'd throw the corpse in as a test. swallowed, getting my breathing under control. Despite how much I had beaten him, I was afraid of touching the corpse, so instead I dragged it by the feet to the hole. It took more than just a waggle and a tug to do it, but of course it did. Considering this man's weight was easily 80 kilograms, I rallied all my strength and dragged him. At this point, my groundless fears that he might suddenly start moving again had vanished long ago. His body fit perfectly in the muddy hole. It was more than deep enough. All right, let's bury him. Quickly, quickly, quickly. If I did a perfect job of burying it here, everything would be over. I would hide it in the hole, and none of it would have ever happened. I realized only I had a little farther to go to finish everything. I was racked with pointless anxiety, like I was racing against time. It's like I was absorbed in a delusion that if I didn't bury the body quickly, it would come back to life. In any case, in a great rush, I poured mud and dirt into the hole. If I didn't work efficiently, someone might find him here. Until now, I figured if someone saw it, just kill them, but not anymore. I was arrested with such absolute fear that if anyone saw me, it would all be over. As I finished the work off, it was a total mess. Splish, splash, squish, Sorry, burp. I drew the surface of the shovel across the ground, trying to make it flat. It was completely covered in mud at this point. The rain was washed the mud off my body, but not off my now blackened clothes. My body and mind were caked with fear, with panic, with fear, with rain, sweat, and mud. My shoulders heaving, I threw down the shovel and sat down in the mud. I was so exhausted that I wanted to lie down right here and sleep. It was over. This time. For real. It was all over. The man was now in the bottom of the wet dirt. Right in this moment, there were traces that his place had been dug up, but the rain and flowing muddy waters would completely cover it all within moments. Yes, it was over. I did it. I did it. I did it. You motherfucker! And when I fell over backwards, face up in the mud, rain droplets pelted my face without mercy, but I didn't care. After staying there for a while, resting my mind, I got up again. It was over. So let's go home. You already buried the whole thing. Now it's like it never happened. It never happened, so there's no reason for me to stay out here and get rained on. I wobbled to my feet. I wouldn't use the shovel anymore. I considered disassembling it, but I didn't even have the strength in my absolute exhaustion. I didn't really need to take it apart anyway. Dragging the shovel behind me, I headed towards the light. I stood up my bike, then lay in the grass by the road. I didn't know how much was going to get self-assembled shovel in the front basket. Put the shovel down the back of my shirt like I had done with the baseball bat. Like the bat, the corner of it was on my back, making it very painful. Plus, if I relaxed my posture even a little, it would fall out behind me. I ended up having to carry the shovel in my left hand and riding my bike using only my right hand. Not only was I in a state of total exhaustion, this was a downpour. One hand on the power handlebars, I was swaying to and from like a drunk, but I didn't care. Even swaying like this, I got a little closer to home every time I pedaled. I saw two lights swaying slowly in front of me. A car was approaching. Oh no, I need to get out of the way. From far away in the shadows of the darkness, a car appeared. Its dazzling lights washed over me. The driver made a short honk of a horn to inform me I was in the middle of the road. I have to get out of the way. I kept telling myself that, but not only was I riding one-handed, I was exhausted and couldn't do anything. Wobble, 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 wobble. I meandered about, not going to the right or to the left. The driver decided to swerve out of the way right in front of me. Without lowering its speed much, suddenly came towards me. Its outline grew larger in my vision, telling me again that I needed to get out of the way. Jerked the handlebars to one direction, lost my balance, and fell over, bike and all. My whole body splayed out, and one foot got caught in the bike. This was seriously bad. My drowsiness quickly vanished, and just as cold sweat broke out on my skin, the driver recklessly spun the wheel to the left, made a counterclockwise U-turn, and came right up to me and stopped. The driver's seat's door opened, and the driver came out. "You idiot, what are you doing here? I was pretty sure someone would yell at me like this." Oh my, look who it is. I lifted my face out the ground and looked at her. Takano-san? Takano-san. Good evening. The moon is very pretty tonight, Mayabara-kun. It is raining far too hard to see the moon. Takano-san unfolded an umbrella and smiled at me as she spoke. That smile, for sure, was some reason uncanny, like she had seen right through me. Out of all the people I could have met, I got the sudden feeling this was the one I wanted to see the least. What are you doing out so late? And you're soaked and covered in mud, and no umbrella either. What is that? A shovel? She'd come here via car. She wouldn't have known that I was just doing. And yet she smiled as though she knew everything. Calm down, Keiichi Maebara. She always makes that mysterious-looking smile, remember? Don't let her on to anything, lest you dig your own grave. The rumors say you were playing baseball with a golf club. Is that what the shovel's for, too? You're using it as an umbrella. I should tell a good lie here. If I could just do that, things would work out. When I went with Rena to go digging for treasure at the dam, we forgot this here. And you went to get it in this downpour? When I left my house, I didn't think it would rain, so... Oh, it's been raining for a while, though. You've been out for quite some time, haven't you? Well, yes, I was kind of wandering around. Even so, you came from that direction, didn't you? The dam is in the opposite direction, you know. Takano-san was clearly aware that something exceedingly abnormal was happening with me. As she played her little word game, she was enjoying driving me into a corner. Maybe she had a vague guess, just from the situation of what I had been doing. My timing really sucked to run into her, of all people, of all times. At the very end, I could only be frustrated at my terrible luck. I'd done so much, and the end is literally right around the corner. So why at the very end did I run into her, of all people? What do you do? Keiichi Maebara, still holding on to something that could be a dangerous weapon. Will you silence Takano-san? Even if it would be simple to kill Takano-san, dealing with the car she'd come in afterward would be an issue. I couldn't drive a car. It's completely different from a motorbike. But even if the car was here, as long as there was no proof I killed her... Yes, and tonight's downpour without prior planning, all by coincidence, a hit and run. As long as I didn't drop any handkerchiefs with my initials on them, they wouldn't know I killed her. Black flame quietly smoldered and raged in the core of my body. That's a scary look. Did I tease you too much? Takano started to laugh by herself, and then thankfully stopped talking about it. But the dark clouds in my mind didn't go away. Leaving that aside, how long are you planning on crawling on the ground with your bike like that? Would you mind moving out of the way? If I moved, she would leave. So I tried to get the bicycle up and out of the way, but then twisted my ankle in it and fell over. Ah, shit! There's a sharp pain in my ankle I twisted. This is nonsense. Sprained ankle now? Oh my, are you alright? Did you twist your ankle? Takano-san squats down and takes a good look at the ankle I keep rubbing. No, I'm not okay. She compares it to my facial expression, apparently trying to gauge how bad the wound was. Can you stand? I didn't expect to, but I couldn't even stand up. It was all I could do to shamelessly wriggle at the ground like a caterpillar. Takano-san looked at her watch, then at her car, and after thinking for a moment, opened the passenger seat door, then gave me her shoulder to stand up with. I'll take you home. I do feel bad, since it's almost like I hit you. I'm sorry. I wouldn't just leave you there. It's a good thing I'm a nice person. Nobody good had ever called themselves a nice person, but that would have been a terrible thing to say to someone holding me like this. I took Takano's hands and sat down in the passenger seat. Takano-san went around the back, looked at my bike on the ground. I don't suppose we could take the bicycle home tomorrow? I could clearly tell from her face that she thought it would be a pain, since it would be heavy, and it would get her car dirty. But my bike was the name Marabata written on it. I couldn't leave it out here like this. Well, can you somehow put it in the car? I sort of need it. The trunk is already full. If I put it in the back seat, it'll get the seats dirty with mud. Well, given how you're already in here, it's already dirty, I suppose. I turned back to the back seat and see someone's folded bicycle there already. It still looked big enough to fit my bike in there as well. My expression reflected my thoughts, and the exact thoughts seemed to get through to her. All right, I'll put it in there for you. I'll be really nice, but just for the night, okay? Folded bike? Wait, who do we know who has a folded bike? Takano-san continued with her mean jokes, but she hoisted my bike and loaded it in the back seat for me. The mean jokes were one thing, but couldn't she do something about that eerie smile of hers? Even more importantly than that bike, I didn't want to leave the shovel there. The shovel could be directly connected to the buried body and to me. I'm sorry to ask another favor, but could you give me a shovel too? Takano gave me a clearly dubious expression. Your shovel. That's fine with me. Is it important? The more I talk, the worse it gets for me. That's how I felt, so I didn't force myself to answer. Eventually, outlasted by my silence, Takano-san gave a short shrug and sighed. All right, I understand. You need your shovel, right? You don't need to make such a mean face. Takano-san brought over the shovel that was lying in the middle of the road. I clutched it like I never let go of it again. Takano-san watched me with a puzzled look. Okay, let's be off. Maebara-kun, you live at the Maebara Mansion, don't you? Why does everyone call my house the Maebara Mansion? Because it's actually a mansion. It must be nice to be rich. As she spoke, Takano-san pulled the handbrake and stepped on the gas. After making a skillful U-turn using the shoulder of the road, she steadily increased in speed. In the rear-view mirror, that accursed place seemed to melt into the darkness. Speed? Huh? I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear you. What was that? Takano-san suddenly tried to say something to me, but thoughtlessly I didn't catch it. Looking ahead, Takano-san said the same thing one more time. The body. How well was it buried? I thought my heart might beat out of my chest, but I didn't let it show. But my lungs were squeezed tight and I couldn't breathe. What are you talking about? When burying bodies in mountains like these, you have to bury it fairly deep because wild dogs will often smell the corpse and dig it out. Some human bone a wild dog brings back in its mouth leads to an incident being uncovered. The police hand out to a stretch of mountains. It actually happens pretty often, you know. Pound, pound, clang, clang. Huge rusted bells started ringing in my head. Had I buried it so deep that I could say it without it absolutely wouldn't be found? The answer was no. I was in such a rush to bury it and get it over with that I couldn't deny having possibly buried it too close to the surface. No, wait, that's not... Wait, anyway. This woman, how does she know? She just passed by here in her car by coincidence, and we ran into each other by coincidence. She had been watching the entire time from the trees, and once I left, she came back in her car? That didn't make logical sense. So then, why? Keiichi Marabara. That's it. You need to kill her. My entire body reawakened, and I could feel my pupils dilate. I couldn't possibly beat her to death with a shovel in such a small car, and I had to use my hands and strangle her. But she was driving right now. If I strangled her, we could get into an accident. Then suddenly Takano-san turned and looked at me. What, nobody retort? For a moment I was surprised. What was she talking about? It seemed we're not a very good match, Takano-san said, disappointed, returning her gaze ahead. I repeated the words she said a few times in my head and finally realized she meant it as an off-color joke. I didn't know whether it was really a joke, but it wouldn't be able to fool her no matter how many lies I told. Right now, with her car driving like this, I couldn't kill her. It'd be even harder doing it when we got back to my house. That moment we met had been my best chance, and to have missed it so easily, it hurt. After that, Takano-san didn't say a single word. The car was completely buried in an almost suffocating silence. What kind of woman had I run into? With everything that had happened today, I managed to pull it off. And at the end of it all, I just had to go home and go back to sleep. What bad luck. As my sleepiness gradually overtook me, the anxiety I felt steadily started to matter less and less. Is this all right, Keiichi Marabara? You probably should not leave this woman alive. Right now, I'm tired. She stepped on the brakes and I jerked against my seatbelt. That woke me up. I thought I must have fallen asleep by accident. I looked out the window, and there was a big building with faint lights on. It was really dark out, but I knew immediately it was my house. I'll go get your folks for you. Would you mind the place for a few minutes while I'm gone? Don't make fun of me, please. Besides, look, I'm fine now. I can walk by myself. Oh my. You were in such pain before that you had to get me to carry you. Did you just want a pretty lady to be nice to you? As Takano-san spoke, she left the car and opened up her umbrella. The sound of falling raindrops were fierce, as always. Carefully reached down and rubbed the ankle I had twisted. There was still some pain, a little weirdness, but they weren't that bad anymore. Rather than being happy about how the light moon was, I first regretted this whole thing. If I hadn't twisted my ankle, I would have still taken the opportunity of killing Takano-san right then and there. There probably wasn't much doubt that Takano-san was convinced I was involved in some sort of crime. If she knew about everything happening with Sadako, then she might have guessed I killed someone. Clink. Takano-san opened the passenger side door for me. You're sure you don't need my shoulders? I wouldn't mind doing it for you again. I ignored her and answered by getting out of the car by myself. The rain was still pretty intense. I got my bicycle out of the back seat. I was a bit curious who the other bike belonged to, but that didn't matter right now. I let Takano-san hold the umbrella over me, then pushed my bicycle up the front door. Thank you very much. I'll be fine now. My ankle hurt so much earlier. It still did, but it aggravated me that I haven't been that bad. It's really seriously terrible luck. All right, I'll be leaving then. Keep it a secret that we had a nice evening drive together by ourselves, okay? Especially from Jiro-san. Jiro-san. Oh, Shima Tomotake-san. I suppose she calls him by his first name. His whole name must be Jiro Tomotake, then. And then, the other bike, the folding one in the back seat that I didn't care about at first, suddenly came to mind. Hey, excuse me, you're from Hinamizawa, right? On the day before yesterday, as I walked near the dam, half asleep, Tomotake-san had talked to me. And the bicycle he'd been riding, it was... That bicycle in the back belongs to Tomotake-san, doesn't it? Takano-san's eyes, I think they sharpened for a moment. And why do you think that? I saw it when I met him before. The frame stood out to me. But wouldn't that be odd Do you think it's possible for this to be Jiro-san's bike? Odd, huh? Takano-san, her hair elegantly fluttering, peers into my eyes. Well, there's no bed and breakfasts in Hinamizawa, are there? Jiro-san would need to be staying in town. Is that so? Well, I guess that's right, huh? You can't really walk from town to Hinamizawa, can you? And there are no buses either. You at least need a bicycle. She didn't need to tell me that. That's why Jiro-san was riding a bike. For Jiro-san's bicycle to be stored in my car, and him not in there. That would be strange, wouldn't it? It would mean Jiro-san was in Hinamizawa without a bike. I'd have left Jiro-san somewhere and put his bike in the car, wouldn't I? It wouldn't make sense. As she spoke, Takano-san made eyes like a hawk. Fortunately, I didn't really understand what was so odd. What about that is odd? Are you and Tomotage-san friends? I don't really think it'd be strange for there to be some reason you have his bicycle in your car, but it would be. What I mean is Jiro-san and his bicycle being in different places in Hinamizawa wouldn't make sense. And for those reasons, it means his bicycle can't be his. Do you understand now? Takano-san's roundabout way of talking was hard to comprehend, but that eeriness I could feel, that vague dreadfulness, I didn't like it at all. But the most wild, instinctive part of me warned me not to pry. That's my bicycle! Jiro-san picked it out for me, though, so I can't deny that it looks alike. Oh, see now. I thought it looked similar. You and I never saw each other tonight. Now she's talking about something completely different. What are you talking about? You and I never saw each other tonight. I stayed there, not knowing what to say, and Takano-san repeated her eerie, succinct phrase to me again. You and I never met this night. You and I never saw each other tonight. Something cold and unpleasant crawled up my spine. I knew because I killed a person with my own hands before. Before I came to the conclusion that I only had one chance to beat this woman to death to keep her quiet, I couldn't hesitate, so I could tell that she arrived at the same conclusion. My instincts warned me again. I wish I'd never met this woman. The faint sense, like a raw smell, drifted from this woman was no doubt the exact same sense that I was giving off right now. The very peculiar aspiration, the lack of uncertainty that had taken a human's life for a purpose, one that those who had risen above everything had. Actually, maybe I should have called it nausea. It meant, and I didn't know how to explain this very well, but Takano was the same as me. In other words, someone who shouldn't have been here. Someone I couldn't have let anybody know was here. Someone who nobody would have wanted to see. And now that we had, we calmly pretended as though we never met. Yes, which meant that just like I wanted to have nothing else to do with her, she didn't want anything to do with me either. And she, too, wanted to make it so that we'd never met. Both of us wished for the same thing. Our desires were the same, which meant Takano's suggestion was extremely peculiar, practical, that I couldn't outright refuse. If that's fine with you, then sure, whatever. You and I didn't meet this night. You're right. That would be best for you too, wouldn't it? Why would you think that? Are you seriously asking me that? You can't figure that out on your own, boy. She cut me off with the condescending word boy, right in front of my house in a place most unsuited to killing. And yet there was a frozen thirst for blood coming from the both of us. I would be killed right here, right now. Yeah, then I should have definitely beaten her to death when we passed each other. Damp, greasy sweat broke out on my body. That's fine. If you wanted me, then you can come any time. And when I made up my mind, she shook her hair elegantly and turned on her heel. Good. I'm a kind person, after all. What was good? How? Because she was a kind person? Was that it? I don't get it. Takano-san got into her car. We didn't exchange any words of parting. I'd performed a massive feat, the killing of Sadako's uncle, and yet I didn't feel any accomplishment. On the holy night of Otoshiro-sama's curse, on which taking the life of another's life was allowed, on the terribly rainy night where the demons wandered as agents of Otoshiro-sama's will. The demons were never supposed to meet, but suddenly they did. The demons parted ways triumphantly. There was no reason for them to fight. Both their objectives had already been accomplished. With the rain hitting me like a waterfall, my eyes met with Takano-san's through the car window. The female demon, her mouth twisted into a distorted, fearless smile. It was too late to kill her. Far too late. That first moment, the very first moment we saw each other, had been my best chance. And now that we had parted like this, I was acutely aware of it. I should not have let her live! She beeped her horn quickly, then her car drove off into the deluge. The one woman who knew what really happened tonight disappeared into the dark. As long as she was alive, the night would never really end. Just get into an accident, I thought to myself. In this downpour, slip on some mud or something and fly face first into a tree and die! That wasn't a delusion, a wild flight of fancy. It was an earnest wish. Yes, it was a command. Die, die. And keep your mouth shut for eternity, because I have no doubt you're wishing for me to die all the same. My curse upon her faded emptily as Takano-san's taillights disappeared into the utter darkness. Her car lights were completely out of sight now, even the sound of the engine fading into the sound of the heavy rain, and was inaudible now. I, too, turned on my heel, to draw the curtains on this insane night, to open my front door, and end it all. I began walking towards the front door. I was covered in mud, and I made a squishing sound with every step I took. Squish, squish. Don't worry, Keiichi Marabata. Squish, squish. She'll die. Squish, squish. Her end will be as miserable as she is. I'll throw her into some flames alive and let her dance until she's burned to a crisp. I'll burn her to ashes in the fires of hell itself until she's roasted as much as she deserves. I wish. I really do. Squish. Huh? Just now, I hadn't taken a step, and yet, footstep. Without emotion, I turned around. There was a footprint that wasn't my own, and there was obviously someone else was behind me, with someone else there. I was sick of this. Whoever it was, I was sick of everything tonight. This time I would kill them. I'd kill them without a second thought. I wouldn't hesitate to turn around and dig another hole. But fortunately, there was nobody there. I wasn't going to have to kill any more people tonight. This night, I couldn't handle any more of it. Even if I heard an extra footstep each time I stopped, I put it down to me just being tired. Should have killed her. I should have killed Takano. I should have done it. I should have murdered her on the spot. She... Fire from hell and victim of the 5th year. Ooh, mama. Time for some tips. Taking extra steps. With the picture of a bike. Fire from hell. Oh man, it's the police station. Hello? Do you need the hospital or the fire department? The fire department. Is there a fire or some other accident? Please, speak slowly and calmly. I think it's a fire. This is the Beep rest area on the Beep highway. I can see a ton of fire and smoke coming up from the mountains behind us. Nobody goes back there, so I don't know why anything got lit on fire. Anyway, I figured I should let you know. It could turn into a forest fire. I understand. I need to know exactly where you are. So please tell me your name, a phone number that we can get in touch with you, and the exact location of the fire. Notice from the fire department headquarters. We have a report of a suspicious fire on the western slopes of the Beep Mountain. Given its distance from the road, it could be a couple's bonfire, someone unlawfully burning trash. The location is deep in the woods. No homes in the area, but the fire could spread. Immediately go to the site to verify. Is this the fire station? This is the Beep District Fire Department branch. We arrived moments ago at the reported area. Fire confirmed to be a burning oil drum left in the mountains. The fire is calming, and there's no chance it will spread. And, well, in the oil drum, I think there might be a person. Like a person burned with kerosene or something. Well, I think maybe we should get to the police over here. There's no mistaking it! This is a person! Ah! This year's curse, then. That's what it looks like. Kills them differently every year, but this is particularly conspicuous, isn't it? Clawing out your own throat. That isn't normal. Let's leave the rest of the old man in Fresnick's. I'm sure he'll find some suspicious drugs. Thank you. Thank you for your hard work. Oh, Oshi-san. Komiyama-san and the others have arrived. Oshi-san, much appreciated. Well, it seems that we have played a pretty crazy one this year. Yes, we've been outsmarted. I was absolutely under the impression Teppei Hojo would get killed tonight. Who is the deceased? Jiro Tomotake, photographer with a hobby for coming to Hinamizawa a few times a year. We didn't even have him marked. I wonder what happened. Did they realize we were watching the Hojo residence the whole time and decided to switch their targets? Maybe. Sure flubbed this one. There's no problems with Teppei Hojo? Correct. His daughter left for the festival in the evening, and a little while later he left on his motorbike. His daughter came back first. Wait, has he not come back yet? Is he still out drinking somewhere? Oshi-san, are you there? Call for Chief Takasugi. He's in the line on car 1. I feel it's important to mention the rain in the game is almost interesting in the fact that it's also matching the rain that's actually outside right now. Because it's actually raining here. Onwards! That was a long chapter. At first I thought it was a dream. I was staring at this strange steed, not really understanding what it was. That was all. I didn't go after it, nor did I ridicule it. That's my futon. The fact that the boring view of the ceiling was my own room. But I didn't realize it for a very long time. Yes, I thought I had been dreaming, but I had actually stood staring at the ceiling the whole time. Lethargic induced by the voices of the cicadas. Even after I realized I was awake, I couldn't draw forth the energy to sit up. Everything I could see, everything I could hear, everything was like a television broadcast that had already ended. It was hot, so hot I could choke on the heat. My back was moist with night sweats, and it felt gross. Unable to endure it any longer, I tossed in my futon, and finally blood started coursing through my brain. I lazily recalled the long day I had yesterday. The reality as I lay there listening to the voices of the cicadas, and yesterday so different from it. In order to kill Sadako's uncle, I had rehearsed, formulated a plan, and dug a hole. It was very hot, and I was tired, wasn't I? When evening came, I went to school and called him on the phone. I panicked for a moment when he asked where the police station was, but it worked out. I awaited him and swooped down. I couldn't remember any more what sort of emotions I'd let my body. In any case, it didn't go smoothly, but I did it. It's very hard to dig the hole for the body. That feeling of rain pelting down on me, I don't think I'll ever forget it. The rain, the mud, the sprays of blood. The sensation of floundering in a swamp. When I met Takano-san on the way home, that wasn't good, no matter how I interpreted it. It's the most unfortunate and uncalculated thing that happened that night. Everything would have been perfect if only I hadn't encountered her. I was just riding my bike with my shovel in one hand, through the downpour, utterly choked. There's no way someone could surmise I was a murderer bearing a body just from that information. When I was thinking calmly, napping under the morning sun, that's what I thought. Still, the more I think about Takano-san's eyes, it seemed like she understood. Takano-san, she knew that I'd killed someone, buried them, and that I had been on my way home, exhausted. Takano-san wouldn't gain anything from selling me out to the police, but that didn't mean I could feel at ease. I should have killed her. I crossed such a bridge to get my tranquil life back, and finally achieved it as a result. But now for the rest of my life, for all the tranquil ways started now, I had to live in fear of when they suddenly end. I had twisted my ankle, dulled from total exhaustion. The fact that I couldn't make the snap judgment I needed to, I regretted it more and more as time went on. You didn't have a choice, Keiichi Maedabata. You didn't have any choice at the time. You were tired. You were a mess. Even if you had made the decision, you might not have been able to kill her. She might have just beaten you instead. In that sense, parting ways uneventfully could have been the safer option. No matter how sharp Takano-san's intuition was, she had no proof. Her suspecting me didn't amount to the evidence by itself. Logically, I know that. But that doesn't mean I have nothing to worry about, does it? Just worry about it when the time comes. Now isn't the time to be worrying. It's the time to be smiling, right? You accomplished so much just to gain a new life starting today, didn't you? Then you should be happy at this new morning. If remembering the past is too hard for you, then let's consider everything up to yesterday as having never happened. You said so yourself. You'd bury it all like it never happened. Well, your wish came true. Everything before yesterday never happened. So be happy, Keiichi Maedabata. Yay. I stuck up my hands lazily. Felt a little silly for me the one doing it. Yay! Received a sigh from deep in my belly. That sigh got my lungs moving. Felt like I hadn't been breathing until just now. Wasn't enough to admonish myself over. All the dice had been thrown already had been, and the numbers had turned up. Weren't bad at all. If I lost with those numbers, then I'd have to give up, I guess. Grabbed the chest of my pajamas and flapped it back and forth. Cool air over my sweating body. Okay. Nothing before yesterday happened. Nothing. Nothing at all. I'd forget it all. Yesterday was all a dream. What time was it? About midday? Getting myself up and going to school this late would seem kind of absurd. But I needed to go. I felt like I was going to school would be the first step into my peaceful new life. I didn't care how late it was, I would go. I'd go to school right now, and get back to the life I had retaken as soon as I could. My lazy body immediately became lighter at the thought. I rolled up out of the futon, bounced on my knees, and leapt right up. Nice! Stuck the landing! stuck out my chest and pried at my gymnast-like pose, and then took a deep breath of fresh air. The brisk morning air had gone for a while, replaced by the crisp air of summer. Downstairs, I got a stern talking to by my mother. Where were you last night? When did you get back? You didn't tell me when you wouldn't be home for dinner, things like that. But considering the importance of what I had accomplished yesterday, a little scolding was no problem. In fact, it even felt like the sort of thing that would happen in such a peaceful life. I listened with an irresponsible smile, and stepped into the sun high overhead. It was around the time lunch break would be ending. Everyone would probably be worrying about me. I didn't go to the festival, and now I wasn't at school. Well, maybe they weren't too worried about it. Since they wouldn't have gotten a small piece of news, but a happy one from Sadako today. Yes, the small piece of news that her uncle hadn't come home last night. Sadako would probably live her days in nervous tension for a while, thinking he might still come home. But eventually those days would end. And finally Sadako, too, would realize her uncle was never coming back. And then Rika-chan would quietly invite her. And she would say, "You can live with me again." And everything would be back to normal. Our lives would go back to how they were before that man appeared. Sadako would start wearing that extraordinary smile, complete with those protruding canines, and fool everyone with those traps she was so proud of. I'd probably be her first target out of everyone, but I wouldn't be mad. In fact, I'd actually shed tears of joy at returning to something so normal. Sadako, she'd gradually go back to that meddlesome personality of hers. I mean, my lack of useful life skills are already completely exposed. I wonder if I'd ever be a match for Sadako. But that would be such a pleasant thing to see, too. And with such warm, fuzzy predictions, I didn't feel bad for going to school so late. In fact, I wanted to run there now that I'd get there as soon as I could. So I decided to savor the peacefulness of just going to school like normal, without running. The world I had obtained for myself, that gave me joy just by walking like this. Yes, the world beginning on this very day was something I'd won. Without that monumental feat yesterday, I never would have been able to come to school so cheerful today. The school gate came into sight. Just then I heard the principal ringing the bell to mark the end of lunch. It was a clear, refreshing sound. I stopped despite of myself and let myself take it in. Tap. I had stopped suddenly, so there was an extra footstep. With a noise, the blessedness I was feeling throughout my whole body withdrew into any pore I could find. And in replace it felt hundreds of hairy caterpillars were climbing at my feet. I turned back, but of course nobody was there. A single footstep could have easily been my imagination, but the footstep felt so ominous. That extra footstep I had heard after seeing Takano-san off last night. With everything that happened out that insane night, I didn't mind something like that happening once. It'd been a hell of a night after all. In fact, having just one hallucination was pretty fortunate, but those footsteps should have ended with yesterday. So if I heard them again today, there was really only one thing it could have meant. Last night still wasn't over. It was still going. Still. The insane night forever. The step I heard, just that one extra step, was quietly ridiculing the nonsensical notion that the world starting today was completely different from the one that ended yesterday. My classmates playing in the schoolyard all vanished inside like the tide going out. When I approached school, it felt like that warm, fuzzy scene had ended, and it didn't feel good. At the entrance, I took a quick look at everyone's shoeboxes. Sadako Hojo. She was here. Mion was here too. And Rena, of course. Even Riko-chan was here. Tomita-kun and Okamoto-kun are here. In fact, I didn't see any missing classmates. If there were shoes missing, they would have been my own. Took my shoes off and stuck them in. Took out some slippers. There wasn't a single pair left in the shoeboxes anymore. With that, they returned to their rightful state. As I stepped on the wooden floor, I noticed there was just one pair of slippers left. Huh? Who's... Satoshi Hojo. Satoshi, who had never been to school since disappearing last year. Till now, we had committed the exact same act of violence. But I guess in the very end it went differently. I couldn't make it to school, but here I am. I didn't repeat the same mistake you made. I wasn't about to let myself feel superior about that. In fact, I felt an odd sensation of familiarity with him. A misfortunate bond with someone I had never met due to following the same fate. I headed down the hallway towards the usual classroom. It felt like it had been a whole year since coming here. Hey, did you forget Keiichi Marabata? Satoshi Hojo didn't really disappear on the night of Watanagashi, did he? Satoshi Hojo disappeared a few days later. It's Sadako's birthday, if I was right. I didn't know what day it was, but I couldn't say for sure if I avoided Satoshi's failure until I remembered here past that day. I was still living in that night of insanity. The teacher still hadn't come to the classroom. The other door clattered open, the one the teacher wouldn't use, so everyone turned at once to see who had arrived. Everyone looked pretty vacant. Suppose I'll greet them. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I do thank you for all coming out of the way here today. Silence. When I started to think I'd fallen flat, someone finally started laughing for me. Who is it? Who laughed? Good morning, Kate-chan! You're pretty energetic today.
Yeah, energetic. Maybe you haven't gotten out of the festival mood yet. Huh?
Hearing Mion and Rena's cheerful voices made me realize how dumb those dark feelings I've been having at the entrance really were. Hey now, festive mood? I wasn't at the festival at all, remember? Or I could say that Rika-chan smiled at me.
Keiichi, did you make sure to watch my dance? Yep, he saw it just fine. Didn't you see how big the applause he gave you?
And he ignored it when the blockhead Shion came up and made a pass at him. Take that, Shion! Wow, that felt good. Mion starts laughing at the memory as she slaps me a few times on the back. So, how did the target practice contest turn out in the end? Tomita-kun is facing me and talking. There was nobody behind me. That meant he was talking to me?
Tomotake turned up dead last. Everyone had a good time with his punishment game.
Weren't you supposed to be the one in last place, Rika-chan? Such a turnaround that you pulled off getting that chewing gum. I should have expected that from the member of my club. It was fantastic. Crying at a time like that was a feat only Furore was be allowed to do, said Okamoto-kun, breathing heavily from his nose. In my direction. Everyone laughed. If anybody but Rika-chan had done it, it would have been against the rules. Rika-chan gave one of her nipa smiles and she listened to it. In my direction. Rena too turned to me. No, turned towards me. And then, with a somewhat embarrassed smile, she whispered to me so I could only hear.
But really, thanks, Keiichi-kun.
For what?
The giant stuffed animal. I was really happy. It's nice and safe right at my bedside, and I made sure to give it a good night kiss before bed, too. Oh!
The class laughed at that, cheering and jeering. This whole time, the conversation had been a little bit off. I wasn't quite getting it. What's this about a stuffed animal?
What's this? Come on, we all worked really hard at the festival yesterday to get it down, remember? The gigantic stuffed animal?
The gigantic stuffed animal. Rena seemed taken aback, but when she answered, she did it with a smile.
We were having a hard time knocking it over, so we tried aiming at the forehead, and rapid fire shooting and stuff. And then Keiichi-kun, you got a whole bunch of guns ready beforehand and shot them all! It was so cool! Oh!
Wait, who was this? All the people in the neighborhood association, including the chairman, was praising you so much at the party afterwards. One of them said he'd fallen in love with your way with words. Tokuzo Kimiyoshi, the chairman of the children's committee, I think. He said he wanted to entrust you with a few of the stalls for the next festival.
Tokusuka is the chair of the refreshments booth. He was in the festival executive committee.
Maibara-san is great at making things sound good, isn't he? Yep, whenever he talks about something, it seems a lot better than it actually is. You can't say that.
Keiichi-kun, you'd be a great salesman. If you did a bargain sale on bananas or something, I bet it'd go great!
What have you been talking about? I mean, I didn't go to the festival in the first place. I swallowed those words. I didn't know exactly why, but in Hinamizawa, this is what had happened. Yesterday, during the Watanagashi festival, Keiichi Maibara had appeared, and he'd romped around with all the usual members of his club. He made a big scene at a few stalls, snatched a few sticks of takoyaki and okonomiyaki in his glee, rating each of them as delicious and terrible as everyone excited. And then they'd seen a giant stuffed animal at a target practice game, and everyone after it. And I got a whole bunch of cart guns, fired them in rapid succession, throwing each one away after using it, and admirably, I shot down the biggest stuffed animal there. Then I gave the stuffed animal, the proof of my victory, to Rena as a gift. Then our fun came to a close, and we had to go see Rika-chan's offertory dance. There was a ton of people squeezed in there, and we all got separated, but we each managed to get in good position to cheer Rika-chan on from. And in the middle, when Shion came up and asked me to go hang out with her instead of watching the decapitation dance, I refused. Stayed put, watching the dance until the very end. But who was that? Well, everyone's been saying it, haven't they? Keiichi Maibara. I managed to yell in anger at my classmates for having so much fun talking about the festival yesterday with Keiichi Maibara. What the hell are you guys talking about? Far stronger than that feeling, though, was the sheer uncanny nature of this reality I couldn't understand. A Keiichi Marabata, who wasn't me, was in Hinamizawa yesterday. As I threw away my humanity, turned into a demon, and was busy beating Sadako's uncle to death. I was having a great time at the festival last night. What the hell? I had to suffer through so much, desperately holding back tears, getting so worn out in that downpour, digging holes, chasing, beating, killing, dragging, and burying. Who was this Keiichi Marabata who ignored me so, and spent such a fun, carefree time at the festival, damn it? Who the hell stood in for me as I put my life on the line, working so hard to achieve this treasure-like everyday life? There's another Keiichi Marabata beside me, then who was I? On the night of Tatarigoroshi, when one died and one disappeared in accordance to Oyashiro-sama's curse, there's only a demon who had killed someone. Dumbfounded as I succumbed to a horrifying possibility, I looked around at my classmates. Did I turn into a demon? To make sure that there was no one extra that I didn't recognize among them. To make sure I wasn't among them. It was a horrifying thought. That the real Keiichi Marabata hadn't overslept and had come to school on time. That I, who was no longer Keiichi Marabata, had just waltzed in here. But no matter how much I checked, the only people here were the ones I knew. The man I met every time I looked in the bathroom mirror was not here.
Okay, everyone, time to start afternoon classes. Please take your seats. President, please lead the class. The teacher entered and everyone hurried back to their seats. Upon finding me, who was so stupidly late, she gave me a stern talking to, but I wasn't listening to it. Wasn't our old life supposed to start today? Something wasn't right. It was just strange. I was supposed to go back to my old fun life after yesterday. I had set foot in an incomparably mysterious world that was completely different from both my old life and my recent one. Yes, this was without a doubt a different world than the one I had been living in until now. There was no way such an absurd thing could be possible. But unless it was true, I couldn't explain anything that just happened. In this classroom, I was surrounded by so many faces I knew, and yet I felt so isolated. The cicadas sounded no different than they had before now, but they seemed somehow false. The air was parched and dry too, making me think, was the air in Hinamizawa always this comfortable? Hey, Rena?
What is it? We're in class.
About the festival yesterday. About when you said I got there?
Huh?
To be honest, I was pretty excited afterwards, and I gobbled down some cans of beer. I mean, it's kind of embarrassing, but I don't quite remember some things. For some rambling bambling, it wasn't a bad excuse.
Keiichi-san, you said you wouldn't come at first, didn't you? You called Mi-chan's house about it, right?
That matched. I called Mion and told her to take Sadako in my place, since I wouldn't be able to meet up with them due to the things I had to do.
We all decided that while we were setting up for the festival that we'd invite Sadako-chan. We wanted to bring her out someplace where she couldn't see her uncle for a little while.
That was the same too. Mion said that when I called her, and everyone had decided to invite her.
And then we all went, me, Mi-chan, Rika, to Sadako-chan's house and brought her out. Sadako-chan's uncle seemed like a really mean person.
That part didn't matter. What I was trying to ask was, when did I meet up with you?
How could you forget that? Keiichi-kun, I think you shouldn't be drinking until you're an adult.
Whatever. When did I meet up with you?
Well...
In a sudden-threatening demand, Rena was at a loss for words. Oops, shouldn't have rushed like that. I told her I was sorry. It was at the shrine grounds. It was unexpected. You were talking to Rika-chan, weren't you?
Yep. You were having a fun talk with Rika-chan in her shrine maiden outfit. And then Rena came up and said, how am I taking you home?
I was talking to Rika-chan.
And I asked Kei-chan, didn't you have something to do today? Then you pounded your chest and said it yourself, that letting loose at a festival was more important than some silly errand.
I didn't say that. I never said anything like that. I never even went to the shrine grounds yesterday to begin with. I never had the time to stop by a place like that. I went to dig a hole as soon as I woke up. I had a pretty hard time doing it. After that, I snuck into school, made a call. I called him out and lay in wait. And then it started raining really hard. With that kind of downpour, the festival should have come to a halt. In other words, it ended then. From the time the festival started to when it ended. It would have been impossible for me to have swung by the shrine grounds. I had already there when Shion and Mion and the others dragged Sadako out and brought her to the shrine, and I was talking to Rika-chan. Then where would Rika-chan say we met? The teacher went out to wash her hands, so I ran over to Rika-chan's desk and asked her directly.
With you?
Yeah. We were talking to each other before Mion and the others got there, right? When did we see each other? When and where?
I don't know what you're trying to ask.
I drank so much beer I lost some of my memory. I don't remember a thing. It looked like Rika-chan bought into my babbling.
We saw each other when the mayor and the others came out of the assembly hall. You were in front of the ritual implement storehouse.
Huh? What? The ritual implement storehouse? Never heard of a building called that before. Maybe I have, but at the very least I wouldn't know where on the shrine ground it was.
The mayor got really angry at you since you shouldn't go near holy places without authority, remember? Keiichi, did you forget that too?
I was too scared to ask anymore. The more I asked, the more it became clear without a doubt that Keiichi Marabata was present at Furude's shrine grounds during the Watanagashi festival. The clearer that became, the more doubts and fears I had. Who on earth was I yesterday? Whoever that was, he had a good time in my place, and managed to go the entire day without letting them notice I wasn't there. Right. When did that person leave, everyone? This morning my mother got mad at me for having stayed out so late last night, which means at the very least that Keiichi Marabata didn't come home until my mother was still awake. The festival would have been closed because of the downpour. If I recall right, when I went back to the house storeroom to get another shovel, I think the clock says 7. Since it was already raining hard by then, the festival would have been closed down before 7. If I had returned that early, I definitely would have run into my parents. On the very least, they wouldn't have asked me when I got back last night. So the Keiichi Marabata from yesterday, that meant he never went home. That meant the downpour happened, the festival broke up, everyone left. But he didn't go back to the house. That means... When I arrived at the natural conclusion, a wicked chill suddenly froze my spine and climbed up to my brain. That meant Keiichi Marabata was the same as Satoshi. One day, he never went home. On the night of Watanagashi, he never went home. The downpour interrupted the festival, and on the way home, he suddenly disappeared. And I, who was dealing with the corpse, went home without a problem. I was so tired I wasn't even hungry, so I went up to my room without a sound and crawled into my futon. Who was I? That much was obvious. Keiichi Marabata. Keiichi Marabata was me. There may have been another one, but that doesn't affect that I was Keiichi Marabata. Then that other Keiichi Marabata was what? The voice of the cicadas steadily filled the classroom and was beginning to bother me. Suddenly I laid my eyes on Sadako. Sadako's expression was dark as always. She seemed completely exhausted, at a life of agony she couldn't even imagine that ending to. What had last night been like for Sadako? Did she have fun? Yeah, this is the problem. Did she have fun with everyone and felt like happier, even for a moment? Then she went home, the end of her dream. She'd probably gone to sleep afraid of when her uncle would return. And then, this morning, her uncle hadn't come home. And then she went to school. Right now, she must have been still trapped by the rotten idea of she couldn't be saved. That her uncle would need her when she got back. But you couldn't rest easy, Sadako. Your uncle won't ever be coming back. I couldn't tell her that because I had killed him. When Sadako realized on her own that her uncle would never return, it would truly be the end of a long, insane night. That's right. I didn't do anything wrong. I did the best possible thing I could have. Sadako's Nini. Not an atom in my body regretted it. And look, calm down and think, Keiichi Marabata. From a certain point of view, isn't it convenient that another Keiichi Marabata? I buried the corpse perfectly. A beginning wouldn't happen. But if the worst came to worst and it got out, the investigation got to me, I now had a strong alibi able to profess the fact that I had been at the Watanagashi festival, but accepting something so creepy and using it as an alibi. Still, if I proved I hadn't gone to the festival yesterday, it would do no good but a whole lot of harm. That was what left a really, actually bad aftertaste. You'll forget about it, Keiichi Marabata. Everything that happened before today. So just forget about the Keiichi Marabata who was there yesterday, too. Instead, let's watch gently over Sadako for the day her smile returns, and the day that would mark the end of that insane, all too long night. That's all for today, class. Please go straight back to your homes, everyone. President, if you would. Everybody stand up at attention. Bow. Goodbye. I thought about many things and saw my thoughts dispersed by many others. I didn't know whether or not that time had been spent worrying or daydreaming, but either way it came along with the end of class. Cheerfully, our classmates got their things and ran for the hallway. Mion, Rena, and Rika-chan were packing up as well. What about Sadako? The whole day she seemed deflated. Well, her uncle may not have returned last night, but she wouldn't have known he'd never returned. How much I wanted to express that fact to her. Sadako packed up her pencil box and math book messily, and after a dark glance at the clock, heaved a sigh. then went to leave the classroom. Then suddenly, somebody placed a hand on her shoulder and stopped her. What is it? I watered the plants like I was supposed to and got all the printouts done. Her words, possessed by a persecution complex, hurt. Spoke loudly so everyone could hear. Hey, everyone! Why don't we have club today? It's been a while. Sadako always had to tend to her uncle, so club had been on hiatus. In our minds, our club was proof of a calm, peaceful life. By enjoying being together, I wanted to make Sadako realize her days of darkness were over.
I'm okay. I'll do it. Meep.
Well, I mean, I don't mind, if it's okay with Sadako. Under condition. That was important. With everything up to her, Sadako gave a worried look. Come on, Sadako, it's been a long time. Let's go crazy. Well, I'm happy you feel that way, but... My uncle might already be home. Thus spoke her darkened eyes, her mouth unmoving. You've been choking on life every day for a while. You must be about to suffocate. It's not good for your body or mind. Once in a while, you gotta have some fun. Please leave it alone. It's not like I don't want to do club again. With one word, but. She looked down. Sadako, you know well as everyone, it's more fun to be around everyone, right? We're friends. That means we can spend time with each other. I mean, you had a great time at the festival yesterday with everyone, didn't you? Mena nearly said something, but she was too late. Keiichi-san, what are you saying? My arm on her shoulder seemed to weigh down, and she threw it off. When exactly was I playing with everyone and having fun at the festival? The only one having fun was you, Keiichi-san. Huh? I looked over at Mion for help, but now everyone is looking down. My instincts told me that Sadako hadn't gone to the festival. But Rena said it herself, that she went with Mion to Sadako's house to invite her.
Sadako-chan left on the way there. She didn't go to the shrine.
Why? I realized the absurdity of what I just said to Sadako in front of me. She said her uncle was waiting at home and she couldn't have fun by herself when we were in front of the shrine.
We tried to stop her too. We told her uncle said it was okay and that he wouldn't get mad if she had a good time.
At some point, tears had begun to well up in Sadako's eyes. Sadako was so afraid of her uncle that she couldn't even allow herself time with her friends and went home. No, she was even afraid of letting herself having a good time with her friends.
Keiichi-san, you must have had it nice having a blast at the festival all night. They told me you went all out, didn't you? I'm very envious.
Smiling to herself, her tears began to fall. I must provide for my uncle. It's completely different from you, with how you let your parents do everything. Sadako, I'm glad you enjoyed yourself at the festival. I'm so glad you had enough for me, too. I mean, I want to participate in the club, too. Making such a racket with everyone is so much fun. But right now, I can't. Unable to withstand such violent emotion, a few teardrops slid down her cheeks. But even though she had such a terrible time, not once did she say it was hard for her. It was a sad, obstinate bravery. The days when Sadako had to feel like that were over. Sadako didn't need to endure it, to bear it anymore. She could forget all about it now and smile. I was so frustrated not being able to tell her that directly. Instead, I said something that I'm not sure I should have said. Before I think twice about it, he didn't come home, did he? The words were deeply meaningful to me, but I didn't know if Sadako had understood them. Didn't come home who? He didn't come home last night, did he? Your uncle. What are you talking about, Kate-san? Sadako shouted with all her might. When was he not there? When? Calm down. I mean, he didn't come home yesterday, did he? I don't understand what you're trying to say, Kate-san. Sadako, what are you talking about? I mean, that man, I killed him. Killed him yesterday. Killed him for sure. And I buried him. Buried him whole. He could never have returned to his house. Even yesterday he was torturing me so much. He yelled at me. He shouted at me. He found fault with everything I did. He threw the dinner I made him on the floor. He dumped his bowl of miso soup on me too. It was hot. It was messy. I cleaned all of it up. I cleaned all of it. Ah! What? Our stories were matching up. This morning when he woke up to make me make him breakfast, he got so mad at me. He would have gotten mad at me whether I'd gotten up or not. Ah! Sadako. Rika-chan went over to Sadako and said a few words of consolation, but Sadako angrily refused those words and thrust Rika-chan away. Nini! Come back! Crying, Sadako slowly walked out into the hallway. After a moment, Rika-chan went after her. I couldn't stop thinking about the words Sadako had spoke while crying. I buried her uncle last night, but she said this morning that was impossible. I buried him last night, so she couldn't have seen her uncle this morning. What was Sadako? After that point, I heard Mion's cold voice. Hey, Kei-chan, what did you mean about Sadako's uncle? I said too much. I let my emotions get the better of me.
Rena heard it too. You said Sadako's uncle didn't come home.
Why? Why didn't he come home?
That's strange. Sadako-chan's uncle was right there this morning, wasn't he? So why would he say he didn't come back? Come back?
Kei-chan, you've been saying weird things for a while. Suddenly, Mion and Rena started to speak in strange, creepy voices. What were they doing? What were they saying?
Kei-chan, is it somehow inconvenient for you for Sadako's uncle to be around?
What are you talking about? Of course it would be better if Sadako's uncle wasn't here.
Yep, that's true, of course. If only he weren't here, right?
Something wasn't right. The next thing I knew, Mion and Rena were smiling thinly, and their eyes were dark and muddy in a way that I'd never seen before. As our eyes met, that mud seemed to fill the air.
Sadako's uncle's an awful person, no doubt. I think we'd all be better off with him gone just as much as you do. But he's here. There's nothing we can do, right?
Nothing we can do. Something's wrong. Something's clearly wrong here. What the hell was happening? For a moment, a chilly liquid-like feeling was crawling through my body. It was mixed with a sherbet, swirling up my spine. No choice. I mean, of course there isn't, but then Sadako will never...
There's no choice. What would you do?
Rena was trying to prompt me to say more. There really was no choice, so I killed him. I killed him to protect Sadako. That's...
Leave him alone. I think things will resolve themselves soon enough. Sadako-chan said her uncle was here, so he's here. He was here yesterday and he's here today. She said so, so it's fine, right? Right?
Mion and Rena were speaking unbelievably dismissively. How could they be talking like that? Mion and Rena, they were my friends and weren't seriously worried about Sadako's abuse, weren't they? They would never blurt out something like this. And I definitely killed Sadako's uncle. No matter what Sadako or anyone else says, I wouldn't acknowledge it because him being alive was impossible. There's no way he was alive. It was impossible. And yet, since Sadako herself said he was here, and he was alive, I don't know why or how, but suddenly, Mion and Rena were at my side, standing there silently.
Let's go home, Kei-chan. After we leave, Rena's going to go to treasure hunting for the first time in a while. Mi-chan is coming too.
Kei-chan, you should come along. Of course, you're not allowed to refuse. If words could freeze blood, then there was no doubt that they would have frozen me solid. I could hear a layer of thin ice, the sound of my muscles tensing. And with them closely at my sides, we left the school as if they were police officers taking me away. They talked about silly things the entire way home, like they always did, but they always stood at my sides as if to prevent me from escaping. This was strange. Everything about this day was strange. Actually, it had been strange ever since the previous night. Yes, thinking back, it had been strange since killing Sadako's uncle. That creepy meeting with Takano-san was only the beginning. This insane night was still continuing. Yes, it still hadn't ended.
What? What's wrong, Kei-chan? Why did you suddenly stop?
Sorry, it's nothing. When I stopped, it was distant, but I definitely heard them. An extra set of footsteps. That was proof. Proof that the insane night hadn't ended. Mion left where she usually did. Finally, we came to my house.
Okay, Kei-chan. Wait here for me. Rena will be come to pick you up soon.
What was it? She was inviting me along on one of her oversized garbage treasure hunts at the dam, right? But why now? Mion coming along was strange, too. Mion may have accepted Rena's little hobby, but she hated fishing through garbage, so she'd never come with her before. And the location specifically being the dam site was a little creepy. The dam construction site was completely outside the flow of everyday life. It was so remote that no one ever went there, unless they thought to in particular. Nobody lived there. There were no lights, so at night it got very dark very quickly. I was being forcibly invited there. There was no reason I had to fear Rena and Mion. Besides, wouldn't the trouble I'd be making by refusing them be a pain to deal with? In that way, it didn't seem like going treasure hunting with them was a bad idea. But that insane night was continuing. Haven't the sirens of instinct been wailing in my mind for a while now, warning me that Rena and Mion were strange? That I needed to be cautious? The warning sirens were so freaking loud it felt like my head was split in two. Rena, I actually have something to do.
Something to do? Like what?
It's just, I have something to do, okay?
If you had something to do, why didn't you say it while Michan was here? I already told her to meet us at the dam site before we split up.
Rena was smiling, but her words made her discomfort clear. Sorry, it's just, I kind of missed the opportunity to say so.
Really?
You're lying, aren't you? You made that up just now, you liar. That's what Rena's eyes said to me. My head hurts. I might have a cold. So I wanted to go get it checked out and get some medicine.
Really?
That wasn't really a lie. My head did hurt a little bit, so I wasn't lying. Rena, she couldn't figure out if my head hurt or not just looking at it.
Then, I guess that's that.
After staring in my eyes for a few moments, she fired a sharp needle-like stare at me. The tension in my body loosened, and I felt like my knees might buckle.
If you're going to the clinic, then you should go soon. Sometimes they close early.
Thanks. I'll do that.
Make sure you go, okay? To the hospital.
I will.
Go, for real.
I will. Seemed like Rena had realized that I was going to refuse her invitation for a while now. With how serious she looks, she might actually call the clinic later to make sure I went. Couldn't say anything careless. Lying about getting checked out was just an excuse to decline her request in the first place. Didn't matter whether I actually went. Yeah, I'll go. If you want, I can bring you the bill tomorrow.
Oh, that would be good. Be sure to bring it, okay? Then I will look at it then.
Another tingle started crawling up my back. There was no ignoring it. Rena and Mion must have been monitoring my movements. That wasn't normal. Far from it. All of it was insane. I did what I did because I wanted my peaceful life back. But what on earth was all this? It was far from peaceful. Something had gone mad, leaving the world out of order. With the other Keiichi Marabata, with those creepy footsteps I've been hearing, with Rena and Mion acting so curious, and above all, with him being alive. Where was I? Hinamizawa Village Shishibon. I knew that much. Was this really the Hinamizawa I knew? Hey, Keiichi Marabata, where is this? I asked, whipping around before the front door, to face the one who had been following me in my wake all day. Nobody would have been there, of course. Keiichi Marabata, huh? That's what I just called him. Called the one who had been trailing behind me this whole time. That shadowy presence always clinging to me, like I was constantly watching for the opportunity to change places. Footsteps always followed me was another impossibility. It couldn't have been a ghost, so it was just impossible. So the strangeness must have been my ears, my head, or Hinamizawa. Everything I could see was the same exact Hinamizawa I knew so well, and that gave me creeps. Eventually I decided to actually go to the clinic. I really didn't want to go outside, but a stronger feeling than the desire was the fear that Rena might actually be keeping an eye on me to see if I went to the hospital. I need to get water, because my throat is hurting, God, this is so much to read. No, my right foot went numb. No, this is terrible. Head, feet, ow, fuck, shit, damn it, knee, no, fuck, shit. Water. That feels better. Cold water dripping down the throat. God, I got something stuck to my foot. Oh no, everything's terrible. Everything's bad. Okay. Yeah, alright. Back to reading. But before I went to the clinic, there was something I wanted to be sure of. H2O, no! It was at school. I pretended I'd forgotten something, and I was going back to the classroom to quickly pick it up. Check the locker! As soon as the thought crossed my mind, I was overwhelmed by paranoia. I was just going to the classroom, but I hated so much having to so carefully fake it. After carefully verifying once more that no one's watching, I went over to the locker. Yes, Satoshi's locker. I committed the crime with the bat I found in the locker, Satoshi's bat, and then I had thrown the bat into the swamp, which meant the bat shouldn't have been inside. But, what if the bat was still in there? It's a very dreadful, incomprehensible idea, but if it was true, it would explain a lot. If the bat was in here, yesterday's events would have all been a delusion. No, an illusion. I hadn't killed anyone, and I had gone to the festival. I had a great time rampaging around with everyone. Proof that Keiichi Marabata was really me. Proof that I had only under some strange assumption that I had killed Sadako's uncle. Proof that it all had been a wild fantasy. That would explain everything. Nothing happened yesterday. I'd just gone mad, unable to separate my shocking, uncle-killing dream from reality. That would explain everything. If the bat was here, would I be able to accept that reality? If it was here, nothing will have changed. If it was here, it would just mean I'd gone crazy. Preparing myself for the worst, I opened the locker door. I was actually scared of opening it slowly, so I threw it open with a bang. And just like the first time, the choking scent of smell and sweat, like a stale towel, came flowing out. There was a baseball uniform and some malicious other things like notebooks. There was also a shoe pouch. As for the bat, it wasn't here. It's how I left it when I took the bat out. There was no doubt. Yesterday really happened. I knew I wasn't a lunatic. I felt relieved. But at the same time, if I wasn't a crazy one, then Hina Mizawa was. And that was evidence of the reality I found just as difficult to accept. There was a noise somehow creeping into everything I saw, and the world was losing a tiny bit of color. So what did I know about last night now? Now that I had made sure the bat wasn't there, I didn't need to be here anymore. Shall I go? For real, to the hospital. It was my first time going to the hospital, but when I had heard, it's not from school. My mom told me where it was. A big, easy-to-see road made straight there. I went past the shopping street, made a turn. It wasn't overly hard to spot the sign with EDA Clinic written on it. There was one other person, an older man there, in the air-conditioned waiting room. I went up to the counter and told them that it was my first time here. The man behind the counter glanced at the clock and said there would be a short wait. It was almost 5. Clinic hours would be ending soon. As I sat in the unfamiliar waiting room, isolated from everyone, I let myself feel the cold air. I actually felt relieved. What should I tell the doctor when he comes? I could tell him I had a cold, but it was a very picture of health. Actually, I wanted him to check my head. I wanted someone to confirm for me whether I was really sane or not. Keiichi Maibata-san, please come into the examination room. Huh? The voice from the other side of the examination curtain. I thought I heard it somewhere from before. Irie-san! Hello. This is the first time we've seen each other here. Coach! Coach, you were a doctor? Now that you mention it, he did seem to know his way around when he was looking at my shoulder in the nurse's office. It makes sense if he actually was a doctor. It also would make sense if you had heard Oshi call him Dr. EDA. Come to think of it, our teacher called him EDA-sensei, didn't she? Well, yes, I'm more or less a doctor here. Doctors have it really good, you know? You get to see and touch all the young, silky, smooth skin. I could inject them with a weird chemical that would make them my slaves and have them be my personal maids. Thank you very much. Just seeing that made my cold go away. I'll be leaving now. Polite bow. Whoa, wait. Maibata-san! A joke, it was a joke. Come, sit down and let me take a look at you. I'll need to use my stethoscope, so show me your silky smooth chest, Maibata-san. For some reason I felt really relieved. After that insane night, as much as I thought everything had gone crazy, Coach was here doing the same thing he always did. I was very happy for that. You don't seem to have a cold. Actually, those scrapes and cuts all over you seem to be a painful thing. Don't tell me you were playing in the bushes with short sleeves and shorts. I mean, I couldn't say that you don't have I can't say for sure you can't have been infected with tendinitis. As I was chasing that man last night, I kept being scraped by bits of tree. I didn't realize I had so many cuts. You went a little too crazy at the festival yesterday. Enjoy that while you're young. And once again, I apparently went to the festival. Coach, did you go too? To the festival? Yes. Of course I did. I may be a doctor, but I'm also on the Watanagashi Executive Committee. Did you see me there? Coach was the same coach I had always known. I felt I could trust him more than my weird friend, so I asked. Well, actually, I was drinking in the main tent with the chairman and the others the whole time. I didn't go out to the festival at all. I don't think I saw you. Oh, that was a strange question. Did you have too much to drink and forget about what happened last night? And underage, too, you bad child! Coach let out a laugh. He didn't laugh in an unnatural way like Mion and Rena did. Coach was okay. He was the coach from the world I knew. He wasn't someone from this abnormal world. Well, this all might seem a little weird to you, but I want you to hear me without laughing. Yeah, go ahead. I greatly welcome any shy, bashful worries you might have as you come into your secondary sex characteristics. Could it be possible that I have an identical twin? Coach hadn't expected that question at all and couldn't say anything for a moment. But then he smiled calmly and quietly answered. This is just superstition, but I've heard before that people have 2 other people in the world that look just like them. If there was, I'm certain I'd like to meet him, though. And there are plenty of fairy tales where a person's double appears. The German one about doppelgangers are probably the most famous. Doppelgangers? Yes, they look exactly like another person. Apparently they herald misfortune, and if you meet one, you're sure to die soon. I think that's how it went. When you meet them, you are sure to die soon. The story ended directly in death, plain and simple. That made my spine tingle. Coach wasn't saying it to scare me, though. He was just offering a casual anecdote. That made it feel all the more real. Have you heard of the ones or those things showing up in Hinamizawa? What? Well, I can't say I have. Coach must have thought he was being teased, so he laughed in an exaggerated way. But when I didn't smile along with him, his laughter steadily grew fainter. I'm sorry, well, I was sort of being serious. No, I apologize for laughing. Was there something you were worried about? I wondered if I should tell him. Then after resolving myself one final time, I softly spoke. I didn't go to the festival yesterday. Is that right? Well, there will be one next year. And then you can... That's not what I meant. I didn't go to the festival, but according to everyone else, I was there. Could that even be possible? After blinking his eyes in amazement, Coach thought seriously about what I was trying to say. And he answered, choosing his words carefully. Let me make sure I have this straight. Mayabara-kun, you went to the Watanagashi festival, but you don't remember it, am I right? I was trying to say something completely different, but I suppose any person would come to that conclusion. That night Kaiichi Marabara was at the festival, but I was saying I didn't go. That obviously meant my memories were going there had failed me. That was absolutely impossible. That vivid act I committed during the downpour couldn't possibly have been an illusion. All these scrapes on my body prove it, as does the fact that the bat was in the locker. No, that's not it, Coach. I really didn't go to the festival. Please, don't take offense, Mayabara-san. Have you ever had an experience where you were suddenly somewhere unfamiliar and you couldn't remember why? No, but I didn't lose my memories or anything. Because while the festival was going on, I was definitely doing something else. It wasn't like I was asleep or unconscious or anything. You're certain you were doing something else. I know I'm being artfully rude, but are you sure you're not mistaken? I know I'm not. My memories are as clear as day, and they were real. During the festival, you weren't at the shrine, and you were doing something somewhere else. Can you definitely prove that? That's right. Thinking it through brought me to this. There was only one way to prove that I really wasn't at the festival yesterday. And that was to show that there was no doubt that I had killed her uncle. Coach saw me struggling to answer, and his eyes looked a little cold. Guess they would. After all, from Coach's perspective, I was just some weirdo sputtering nonsense. Would you like to lay down? Maybe you should relax and take it easy for a bit. Sorry. I didn't really come here to lay down. You seem to be a little worked up. Why don't I get you a sedative that'll let you sleep for a bit? That way, I'm not being strange! Coach seemed to realize he was treating me like a deviant, and he raised his voice. I apologize if I offended you. So please, calm down. I definitely didn't go to the festival. That's the truth. I understand, so please calm down, take a deep breath. No, you don't understand at all! Coach was stunned and stared in stupefaction. I do understand, Mayabara-san. You didn't go to the festival yesterday. Is that right? I believe you. I believe you. Coach jotted down a brief note in his records. He was writing it in German, so that his patient wouldn't know what it said. But I could make a good guess at what he wrote. You won't believe me until I tell you everything I was doing at that time, will you? No, I believe you. Please sit down. Before I sat, I tilted my head back a little. The blood in my face all drained out, and I quieted it down. After taking a deep breath, I made sure I was calm now. It would have been impossible for me to be at the festival, because at the time I was... Should I tell him or not? I really didn't want to go on living like this, feeling this horrible. And I said them, the fatal final words, because I was killing Sadako's uncle at the time. I could smell the concrete in the room, could feel the air around us sharpen. Nobody moved. Only the sound of the clock ticking told us time hadn't stopped. With his mouth wide open, Coach couldn't even forgot to blink for a little while. You killed Sadako-chan's uncle? Yeah. It's fine now, Keiichi Marabara. Don't hesitate. Admit it with all your strength. Yes. Last night I did it. I killed him. I spoke clearly and fluidly. I could easily tell the Coach's mind had gone completely blank. Why would you... No, that was a foolish question. I believed it was the most direct method of saving Sadako, so I carried it out. I don't have any regrets. I see. Coach smiled thinly and nodded a bit. So I couldn't have been at the festival. Left the brightness of my house for the darkness of the outside. After that I dug holes, made phone calls. I had my hands full. And then I attacked him, killed him, and buried him. It was pouring hard at the time. The festival started that evening, but it was suspended due to the rain. There was no gaps in my memory. From the late afternoon until it started to rain, there was no time for me to possibly have gone to the festival. And those wounds are from that? Yes. There is a road to the forest near Sadako's house. I attacked him there. He ran, but I chased him, and I finally killed him near the road that leads to town. Is that true? Killing her uncle, it wasn't some wild fantasy. I could tell the coach didn't believe me. So I spoke slowly, not to let myself grow excited. It's true. I killed him with Satoshi's bat. I threw it and the uncle's motorcycle into the swamp. I dug a hole, killed him, and buried him. I did it all by myself. Sadako-chan's uncle drove past you on a motorbike, didn't he? And then you predicted he'd do that and just waited? I assumed he wouldn't be leaving his house that day, so I lied to him over the phone to get him out. You called him? But your house is so far away from Sadako-chan's. I wouldn't think you'd be able to make it there so soon after calling him. I used a phone closer to where I was going to attack him, the one at the school. But my boss-son, it was Sunday. Wouldn't the school have been locked up? The forest ranger happened to go inside for a bit. I slipped in while I had the chance. After that, Coach grilled me a few different times regarding the incident. He made sure to question me carefully, looking for any contradictions in my account. I'll believe you. What you did yesterday didn't seem like a dream. Explained everything, including minor details that only someone who had actually committed the act could explain. I could, of course. It was only yesterday. Coach realized that my story had no expedient coincidences, or two convenient details that would have existed in a daydream or delusion. Finally seemed to want to believe me. So do you still think I went to the festival and lost my memory? Coach slowly shook his head. But everyone in class, they said I was at the festival yesterday. Is that even possible? No, it's not. Your classmates probably mistook you for someone who looked very similar. Then, given how group psychology works, everyone just assumed that you had been at the festival. They couldn't have mistaken me. Me and all the rest said they were spending time with Keiichi Maebara. It's much more than just having mistaken someone else for me. But saying that out loud would just confuse Coach. He spoke to me in whispered tones. Do you feel guilty at all? It didn't sound like he was criticizing me. Even if he had, I would have flatly said the same thing. I don't. I did it so that I could return to the peaceful days that he had stolen from us. So I planned to forget all about having killed him and live my life as usual. Once Sadako's regular smile returns, the one from before he showed up, everyone will be finally over. Any chance that someone will witness the crime? I don't think so. If someone had seen me, I would have been arrested already. I am a doctor. My job is to save lives. So I cannot make any statement on the effect of condoning the taking another's life. So instead I will save this. Coach slowly rose and placed a hand on my shoulder. For saving Sadako-chan, I thank you. Coach's eyes started shedding warm tears. When I looked at him, I started to feel some tears of my own. I didn't know what I was crying for. And so for a little while, the two men in the room fought back their tears. But it's strange. What is? I'm sure I killed him, and yet he seems to have returned home alive. Coach's expression immediately sharpened. Depending on the situation, there are many ways that mere unconsciousness could look like real death to a layperson. Do you think it's possible he was just knocked out? I didn't check for a pulse, but I'm pretty sure I did him in. Can I ask you to reproduce the situation in which you attacked him, Maebara-san? Coach rolled up a health and fitness week poster nearby and offered it to me, representing the bat. Though I may not have lost the emotions of the beast that night, I remember the detail and the number of times I swung the bat, the angles I had swung and the force I had applied. Using Coach as a stand-in for the uncle, I reproduced them over one by one. And when he tripped and fell, I bashed him in the top of the head, like this. When I did it, it felt different from the other strikes. I thought I cracked his skull. Coach is calmly analyzing this information, using the places I'd struck in the situation at hand, to find out what state the uncle's body had been in. I wasn't totally sure he was dead, so I hit him a few more times after he fell. Did he react at all? At first I sort of felt like his body jolting with every hit, but eventually that stopped too, and he didn't react at all. Coach folded his arms and hummed a few times, and he spoke. He's dead. There's not much doubt about it. He didn't just look like he was. I can't say very much from just your story, Maebara, but I think it's almost certain. Besides, you buried the corpse in the mud, And that took quite a bit of time, right? Let's say it took you 30 minutes. That would mean he was buried under the muddy water for those 30 minutes. If you didn't breathe for that long, your brain would die no matter what. You mean, even ignoring how hard I hit him, he definitely would have died when I was burying him? That's right. That's impossible to stay alive, buried underground for 30 minutes. Impossible. You're right. But, Sadako, she says he's alive. Coach, a doctor just gave his stamp of approval that he was dead for sure. That made it all the more unfair that he could still be among the living. Maebara-san, this is a real horrible idea, but is it possible that the person you killed wasn't actually her uncle? Huh? He's right. That could be why. Clear up the inconsistency of my definitely having killed someone and him still being alive. There's no way. I mean, we both were at Sadako's house when she was bringing his alcohol inside. There was a man who stuck his face out the window to look. It was him, right? That was Sadako's uncle, right? Yes, you're not wrong. It was that man. Could she have more than one uncle or something? No, not the one that I've ever heard of. It's just him. Could you tell me what he looked like? Well, his height first. He was about 175 centimeters, maybe a little taller. In order to eliminate the worst possibility that I had killed someone else, Coach began to thoroughly compare what the man in his mind looked like from what I told him the person I killed looked like. But no matter how in-depth my description went, none of the characteristics differed. The uncle's traits, according to Coach, were all the exact same as the persons I had killed, but those traits were all extremely vague, and they weren't particularly distinct at a glance. Was there anyone else about him that could let us identify him for sure? Now that you mention it, I've never seen it, but I believe Sadako-chan once said a long time ago he had a tattoo of a tiger or something on his back. Tattoo? That was really important. Not everyone had a tattoo. If I found a tiger tattoo on the back of the man's corpse, proof that I killed the right one. At the moment, though, there was one other thing that could verify this. To go to Sadako's house and see for myself that the uncle had returned home despite having died. That was far more terrifying than digging up the body and looking at its back. Without even looking at the tattoo, I knew for sure that the one I killed would have been Sadako's uncle. I cracked his head open and killed him. And yet he had gone back home. There wasn't any misunderstanding, even the shadow of doubt in my mind about having killed him, and yet it's impossible for him to exist. Kind of like how Keiichi Maebara had been at the festival despite it being impossible. This small commonality made me feel as though a faint but bizarre force was permeating this insane Hinamizawa. I wonder, what on earth could have happened? Despite you not going to the festival and killing Sadako's uncle, you were at the festival, and the uncle you killed is alive. None of this makes any sense. When I look at everything that way, it looks like I'm just having a nightmare and there was no killer at all, but it's the truth. The sensation I used on my own hands, that bat to bash him again and again, it was no illusion or dream. Coach with a slow sigh, and then after looking at the clock, got up. Let's go over this all a little more seriously. If you'll excuse me, I'll go put on some tea. Clinic's about to close, after all. I need to let the other employees leave. Coach stood up and went out into the hallway, leaving me alone. The clock was about to strike 6. I was at the festival, and the uncle I'd killed was alive. Had I really committed murder yesterday? The only whisper of a fact to prove it had happened was the absence of the bat of Satoshi's locker. In any case, I was glad that Coach had taken my nonsense seriously. I just confessed to murder. Normally that would frighten a person away. But Coach didn't run. He cried with me. I was glad he did. Like so, my tension smoothly melted away, and I suddenly realized I had to urinate. I thought to use the restroom while Coach had stepped out. There was one across the room from the waiting room. As soon as I left the room, I saw Coach and 2 male doctors wearing white clothing standing in the shadows of the hall nearby. I didn't particularly intend to eavesdrop or anything, but I was quite surprised upon noticing how uneasy they seemed. I hid behind the wall and quietly listened in. It seemed like Coach was giving directions to the 2 doctors. Black tea? I'll make some. Mix in enteroberol or ravenol. Cover the taste with milk and sugar. He may grow suspicious at the sudden onset of drowsiness. It's possible he may get agitated and become violent. We will handle that. How many male staff are still here? 1 mountain dog, including us, 3. What was that all about? I think I was already agitated to fight what the coach said. Was that it? Was this just a casual conversation? It was only sounding unbelievable to me? Coach said he would bring black tea and left the room. And then in the shadows, he was telling his subordinates to put some kind of sleeping powder in the tea? Plus, they were getting extra help, in case that the sudden sleepiness and suspicion started getting violent. Hey, wait, Keiichi Maebara! Calm down, calm down! There's no way something this stupid could be happening! mean, he was genuinely listening to my story and even cried with me. I thought it was the one person in Mizawa who would understand. This was... There are signs of fabrications or falsehoods, and his memories of yesterday are particular completely confused. He can no longer tell truth from falsehood. It's quite similar to multiple personality disorder. But as of how quickly this mental disorder emerged, it's just not normal. Maybe it's inborn. Perhaps there are signs before he moved here. I'd like to take a look at any records of him staying in a mental hospital before he moved here. In any case, I want him to take a quiet nap. The two doctors nodded deeply. I should probably contact Maibara-kun's parents, too. Though I can't think of what to tell them. Please find his home phone number for me. My eyes, still moist, began to share more tears. This was too cruel. I really thought he had actually understood, and had believed what I had told him. But now, from the other side of that wall, he's bluntly treating me like a crazy person. I believed you. I believed you! I had let down my guard because I thought you were the only ally I had left after that insane night. Was that a lie? All that about thanking me on Sadako's behalf? Were you just pretending in order to keep me placated? Ugh. My tears fell to the floor in frustration. I was an idiot. I was such an idiot for believing that bastard. I heard footsteps approaching the doctors. A man in a dress shirt with no tie came rushing up. Dr. Irie! It's terrible! They found Takano-san! Takano-san? Wait, where? Well, apparently they discovered her burned corpse in the mountains in Gifu. She's dead? Takano-san? The men, all surprised, exchanged glances. Dead? Takano-san? Hey, wait, so then... Does that mean when I cursed her, wishing for her death, that wish was granted? What do you mean, burned corpse? Was it an accident? According to the Gifu police statement, the possibility is extremely high that she was murdered. As I cried, I laughed quietly. Serves you right. Serves you right! If I hadn't run into that woman, my murder would have been perfect. But she just had to come driving up to me and tried to coerce me like that. I regretted not having killed her on the spot, but now she was dead anyway. My curse, my wish for her demise was fulfilled. Serves you right. Serves you right! Misa-san died, and Takano-san died. What on earth could be happening in Hinamizawa? Don't tell me that this is all Orishiro-sama's curse from this year. Like hell, I'd like the curse be real, Coach said. Everyone present just nodded as the coach cursed no one in particular. Yes, maybe it wasn't Orishiro-sama's curse, but this was definitely a spell, a curse. I wished for her to die, so she did. If this was all just a coincidence and she died because I wished for it, then you'll die next, Coach. You betrayed me. You pretended to believe me, but deep down you thought I was a madman. You looked down on me with all that pity in your eyes. For now, get the black tea ready. I'll bring it inside. I don't think he'd let anyone besides me be alone with him. Shit. What do I do? What do I do, Keiichi Maibara? This time I heard the voice of a nurse. Dr. Irie? Oh, there you are. You have a phone call. Oh, I'm a little busy at the moment, so please tell them I'll call back. Who is it from? I'm Mr. Oshii from the Okamiya Police Department. Ah, sheesh, what bad timing. Alright, I'll answer it. Coach left to go to answer the phone. The other men headed down towards the room with the teapot to make the black tea like Coach had ordered them to. Fortunately, Coach had taken the phone call, meant there would be extra time for me to act. I had to decide what to do now. Would I let him make me a drink of the sedative-infused tea, or be held down and thrown into a mental hospital? Nothing would come from starting a brawl here. They had more people anyway, and they were all bigger than me. If it came to a fight, I didn't stand a chance in hell. If I couldn't win against them, then there was only one thing left to do. Run. Adrenaline started rushing to my brain, and my body started to move on with keen instincts, like it had on that night. My nervous tension quickly cooled. The transmission routes between my cells enlarged. Using 360-degree visual information, I searched for an escape route. I would open the window behind me. Outside was a parking lot. There was no cars. A little beyond there was a bicycle I had taken to get here. I determined that this would be the quickest method of escape. I approached the window swiftly, but with little sound to raise as little suspicion as I could. With the speed and silence of a shadow, like I had on the night that I chased our uncle, I unlocked the window and opened it up. A cool evening breeze wafted in. I stuck my head out and looked out in the parking lot again. Nobody in sight. No need to hesitate. I quietly crawled outside and closed the window behind me. Held my breath and listened carefully. Nobody seemed to have realized I had run. Looked around. Then I jumped onto my bicycle and zoomed away. The pedals clattered under the force. Had my bike always creaked like this? Did the pedals always whine every time I pushed down on them? My bike wasn't the only one crying, though. My tears fell as the wind cut through them. They rode the breeze and scattered behind me. I hate this, I hate this. Not the crazy one Hinamizawa is. How dare you treat me like a madman? Die, die. Just fucking die already. I believed you. I'd gone to the hospital in order to escape Mion's invitation, but the reality that was waiting for me had been too cruel. Who was insane, me or Hinamizawa? Or was the answer something else? I started having trouble breathing. I didn't have any clue what was happening anymore. The loud chirps of the Higurashi were irritating me. Were even the Hinamizawa Higurashi I knew so well calling into the wind? No, that wasn't quite it. They weren't calling. They were crying. The pain wailing of those lost in some kind of rhythm in another world, no longer able to return to its own sunlight. I didn't do all that to end up in a world like that. And actually, at this time, I might have been having fun with everyone else. Thought I would have gotten her smile back after realizing her uncle wouldn't ever come home. She might have shown it to us at our first club meeting in a while. That was the kind of world I wished for. So what was this? Why did I end up in this strange, ghastly world? Someone I had killed was living like normal. I had enjoyed myself at the festival despite not being there. I didn't want it. I didn't want this strange world. When did it start to go wrong? When? No matter how much I thought about it, I never understood. I rode swiftly and returned to my home. It had begun to rain during my journey back, and just like yesterday, I was now soaked. But I didn't care about something so trivial right now. The pain I felt in my heart, that coach, the one person I trusted, was acting so cruelly, was far worse. Yet I have no allies in Hinamizawa anymore. With that naive thought, I at least wanted my parents to show side with me. I stepped up to the front door. Wait, Keiichi. It'll be dark soon. Something you want to check, right? Yes. I wanted to dig that man's corpse and get a look at his back. If there was a tiger tattoo there, I would know beyond a doubt that he was Sadako's uncle. That long night wouldn't end until I was certain. In this insane world, it was all reparation, all a divine punishment. Then I needed to make certain whether I had been successful enough to even deserve to pay that price. I went to the storage room again and got the shovel. It had been washed in the rain, but the paint was peeling, making it look unsightly. I never, ever wanted to touch this thing again. The sensation of it in my hands was totally different from the night before. There was a ruthless coldness about it. Yeah, it'd be dark soon, so I'd need a lantern too. There'd be a little bit of light from the street lights, but it would get extremely dark. I thought I'd put the lantern here, but I noticed it was anywhere to be found. Then it hit me like a bolt of lightning. Of course. On that night I hadn't brought the lantern back with me. I'd left it at the place I buried the body. If I didn't go get it soon, it'd be very dark. And then not only would I not be able to find the spot I buried the corpse, but I wouldn't even be able to find the lantern itself. If that happened, it's all over. I need to hurry. In order to fit the shovel in the basket on the front of my bike, I needed to twist it and dismantle it. But it looked like there was dirt in the joints, and no matter how hard I pushed, it didn't want to come apart. After strenuous effort, I realized I couldn't get it apart, so I decided to hold it in one hand and ride the bike with the other. With the downpour soaking me through, and a shovel in one hand, and riding one-handed, it was as if I returned to that night. No, returned was the wrong word. It was more like the night had never ended. The pain of the raindrops striking me were no different from then. The thing was different was Hinamizawa, the world, and nothing else. The rain clouds were already making it dark, and now was about the time for the sun to set. I could tell it was only getting rapidly darker. The straight road leading to the town, in the middle of it. That should be where I buried it. Yes. It was near that streetlight. On that night, too, the water from the downpour was splashing down from the streetlight, overhanging like a waterfall. The pouring rain was the exact same as it had been that night, and thus it brought my memories into focus. I left my bike in the brush, and stepped into the forest, the ground already soaked with mud. Where had I buried him? Think. The darkness, the shadows, the water, the mud. Everything was the same. Think. And then I spotted the lantern by a fallen moss-covered tree. That's right, I left it right there. If I left the lantern there, then I would have buried him over here. but the sensation of standing in the sludge. My feet remembered the spot better than my eyes did. I plunged my shovel into the ground. It's hard. It wasn't here. I just dug it up, so it should have been softer. I stuck my shovel down in a few spots to test what they feel like. One of them clearly felt deeper. I recalled where the lantern was, where the trees and the things were in relation to each other, and knew that it had to be here. Under here slept the man's corpse. It would definitely be the tattoo of a tiger on his back. But if it wasn't there, then I had made a horrible mistake and killed someone completely unrelated instead. I'd be more dazed at the fact that Sadako's uncle wasn't dead than I would have regretted getting someone else mixed up in this. If this insane world was punishment for the sin of committing murder, I wouldn't be able to accept it until I killed Sadako's uncle for good, and then without fear I'd attack him again, and that time, kill him for sure. But what if the tattoo was there? That would mean I killed Sadako's uncle. But that would be terribly strange. If I killed him for sure, who was the uncle at Sadako's house at the very moment? Possible. I didn't even know any more than using the word impossible to refer to it. I used that word quite a few times today. If I happened to make the words impossible fit just one thing, what would it be? That must be obvious to me. It'd be impossible for this crazy world to be real. I shouted and turned behind me. There was nobody there, of course. It hadn't been bothering me for a while, but those footsteps have followed me this entire day. Even just now, an extra set of steps had splashed behind me. No one was actually there. No indications of anyone even. But they were there. Who are you? You've been following me ever since I came to this world. That's right. Thinking back, the first time I heard those steps was after Takano-san and I had parted. Those footsteps were my welcome in this strange inside-out world. No one could be there. I get no response. Whoever it was, they just kept staring at me. It wasn't ominous, just unpleasant. After staring in the empty space for a bit, as I was bathed in the rain, my illogical anger slipped away. My tension loosened, and a tired feeling reared its head. I tasted this feeling that night, too. The sudden exhaustion I felt as the tension in my brain loosened. My vision quickly narrowed, and it felt like everything around me had suddenly gotten darker. I couldn't give in to this sensation. I would light what little explosives were left in my brain and force myself to keep going. I needed to dig that man up before my stamina ran out. I needed to see the tattoo on his back. I caught my sudden ragged breath and calmed down. Then I struck the shovel in soft, muddy ground again. It felt exactly the same as that night. The sense of digging a hole in the beach, with water coming in with every wave. What day was today? Had I gone back to the night of Watanagashi? Every strange thought that came to mind tormented me. Given my exhaustion, I didn't think I could manage to hold on to those thoughts back. Once the hole was deeper, all illumination finally faded, blanketing my vision in jet black. It's probably the moment the sun had finally set, too. The night I had feared the worst, and gone without much light. My senses were so strained I couldn't even see it in that darkness, but now I didn't have that kind of strength left. I drained everything I had last night, and now the darkness would be lethal. I decided to turn on the lantern. Putting on the first setting would give it off a faint light. With how little there was, it was enough, and people wouldn't be able to see it with far away in this rain. Grabbed the chilled lantern, turned the dial up with a click, set it to weakest light setting, and turned it on. An uncanny world of silhouettes appeared before me. A complex and strange shadowy world, created by the intricate entanglement of trees and branches. I had only turned on the light. It was like that was all it took to make the world into something else. But a quick, tired breath and wiped the liquid, neither rain nor sweat, from my brow. And I raised the shovel in the air and slammed it into the mud. At that moment, the silhouettes surrounding me ominously all moved at once. Inside my head, something packed in there, something coarse but not hot or cold, was loudly rushing about. The silhouettes were all around me, looking down at me. One of them, a silhouette bigger than the others, stepped forward. Hi, Oshi-san. Good evening. The moon sure is beautiful tonight. The coarseness in my brain shot through my whole spine and left me at my waist. The strength of my body all left me through my hips. I crouched down with a splash. In the sea of mud, I dug myself. Oshi. Is that really how you addressed your elders? You have a rough time to have it once you become an adult. It wasn't only Oshi, but 5 or 6 of them in a row, men wearing raincoats. I had no inkling that this many people had gotten so close. It was like once I turned on the lantern, they just appeared there, sliding out of the shadows. Please, don't mind us. Just think of us as trees in the forest, perhaps. Don't mind them? Yes. Pay no attention to us. Please continue digging your hole. It's very late and raining very hard. and you're working pretty fervently. We won't get in your way. Please, take it to your heart's content. No, thank you, I said. When I tried to get up and turn around, 2 men blocked that route. They stood on either side of me and lifted me up with amazing strength and threw me into the sea of mud. As I soaked in the mud bath I dug for myself, I looked up at the silhouette looking down at me. Oshi squatted, picked up the shovel, and threw it at my feet before me. It bounced loudly off the mud and hit me in the face. Come! Please, continue! Continue. I couldn't bear the oppressiveness of the silhouette surrounding me, and slowly I stuck the shovel in the mud again. It felt like I was digging my own grave. If I kept digging, it wouldn't matter where there was a tattoo or not, because that man's corpse would appear eventually. It was all over, surrounded on all sides, and nowhere to go. But I just couldn't figure it out, no matter how much I thought about it. Why were they here? Was it Takano-san? There was only one person who could have made the connection between me and this place. Shit, I knew it. She deserved to die. Stopping so soon. Oh, she kicked me in the back, which took me by surprise, sending me flying into the mud. Hurry up and dig, please. You really should consider the fact that some of us are standing out here in the rain. Fuck you. If you don't like the rain, then just go home. Ah! She kicked some mud into my face. Work, please, instead of talking. Only people from the red light district could do both at once. Isn't that right, boys? The men around him didn't react, not knowing quite whether they should laugh. But when Oshi glared at them, they started mumbling out pained chuckles. Just who was this guy? I knew the world had changed after that night, but if I knew even further back, didn't it start when this guy showed up? That was when our peaceful days were taken from us. Ever since she showed up in Hinamizawa, things had been odd. Everyone stopped smiling and the world went crazy. The ground under my feet gradually got harder and heavier. At this point, even I started to think something was odd. I hadn't buried him this deep that night, had I? My exhaustion peaked, and I sat down on the spot. How long do you want me to dig? Kids these days have no stamina. Hey, you! At Oshi's gesture, the men all pulled out their own sinister-looking shovels. As I watched the daze, one of them grabbed my collar, dragged me out of the hole, and threw me to the ground. The rest of the men stepped into the hole I dug and started shoveling themselves. As I stared at them dumbfounded, Oshi slanted over and squatted down to look at me directly. Keiichima Bada-san, is this a hobby of yours, digging holes on rainy nights? When I didn't respond, Oshi took one of the tin buckets they were using to bail out the muddy water, scooped up some of it, and splashed the whole thing in my face. The rain's heavy today, too. No matter how wet I get, I don't seem to understand the appeal. Oshi smiled to himself and scooped up another bucket full of muddy water. I'll ask you again. Is digging holes on rainy nights your hobby? Who the hell would have a hobby like that? Splash. Oshi hit me with another bucket full of muddy water. The pebbles in it stung. Will there be something in that hole? I've always liked that story, you know, the one with the old man who takes plants to bloom and the puppy digging in the yard for gold. As he spoke, he ran the bucket through the muddy water again, to splash in my face again. What kind of treasure is buried down there, Can't you at least give me a hint? If you want to know, then dig on your own time. You fucking pig. I won't say that out loud, but Oshi mercilessly drenched me in bloody water again. Shit. If only you hadn't shown up, the world wouldn't have gone wrong. Ever since you showed up, things have been strange. Sadako got abused by her uncle, I ended up killing him, and the world went crazy. He was how it all began. Because of this culprit. He splashed another bucket of mud in my face. My insides were seething with anger. Die. You die, too. If I have some strange power to kill someone by cursing them, like with Takano-san, then you're dead. It won't be Oshiro-sama's curse, it'll be mine. I'll curse you and kill you. What a rebellious look you're wearing. Why don't you use this opportunity to teach you a thing or two about that regard? Really do live in peace these days. When I'm about your age, corporal punishment was the norm for everything. Oshi-san! One of the digging men in the raincoats wiped some sweat off and called Oshi over. Oshi tossed the bucket away and turned around with an evil grin on his face. Yes, what is it? Please, look at this. Acceptance or maybe resignation. I wanted to say that to them, so you blockheads finally found it. That's right, I'm the one who killed him. But you're the police, so it's your job to figure out who he is, right? Come on, prove to me that he's really Sadako's uncle. What on earth? We think it's an old drain pipe. It seems to be connected to the irrigation channel over there. Let's smash the thing. It's not being used, is it? The men all exchanged glances, then hesitantly broached another topic. Oshi-san, the ground down here is pretty hard. I don't think anything could be deeper than this. Did you get the location wrong? No, at first it definitely felt like this place had been dug up before. But after digging so far, the ground suddenly hardened. We think we've gone down further than the hole was originally dug. So, what does that mean? There was a hole here and somebody filled it back up? Is that what you're trying to tell me? What? What are they talking about? Well, I'm at a loss. Aren't you? Am I about a son? She grabbed my collar and dragged me to a huge hole they dug. The mud inside was like an ocean, and I couldn't see any drain pipe down there. One of the men stirred it with a shovel, letting me hear it clang against something hard. There was no doubt I had buried him right here. But I hadn't buried him this deep. I didn't dig deep enough to unearth an entire drain pipe. So, then, this man, his corpse, where was it? Proof that I had been successful in that night, was gone. Gone. Then what on earth was I? Was I actually crazy after all and just possessed by the delusion that I killed someone? That couldn't be. It was the unmistakable truth. It couldn't have been a hallucination. But now, the most important evidence that it hadn't been an illusion was gone. I killed him. I buried him. I had absolutely unwavering confidence in that. Then, did I fail to kill him? After I left here, had he started breathing again, crawled out, and gone back to Sadako's house? Was that it? I'd come here to see whether he had a tattoo or not. And yet, the truth I unearthed was far more than that. Yesterday, what was I? I killed him. I buried him. There was no doubt. But for some reason, he lived and crawled back out. And that was impossible, too. I'm so tired of hearing the word impossible over and over. I get it! Dead people don't like to play by the rules here in Hinamizawa. Then I'll kill you as many times as I need to. I'll keep killing you until you never show your face to Sadako again. Oshi and the others were muttering to each other. Eventually their conversation ended and Oshi came towards me. What did he want to say? What did he want to do? Stiffened and tensing up. And Oshi just ignored me like I wasn't even there and passed right by me. The other men too. They ignored me and shuffled away. Eventually there was no longer a sign that anyone was around. I returned to my quiet world of silhouettes. The only one left there was me. Only the sound of the pouring rain filled up the silence. Well, I think I'm going to finish this tomorrow. Because I've been going on for a lot longer than I thought I'd be. So, may the quiet music drift you off to sleep.